Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show, post-Christmas edition. Happy Hanukkah to all who celebrate. Kwanzaa as well. You're probably basking in the glory or aftermath of a messy, sugar-laden Christmas day. At least that's what I was doing. Hopefully your kids are exhausted playing with friends, cousins, relatives, whatever, and enjoying the hard-fought, hard-won fruits of whatever labor it is that you enjoy.
Well, hopefully the dogs are tired out too. Because listen, at my in-laws, we had 3 dogs over there. 2 of them in-laws, another my mother and father-in-laws, another one of my sister-in-law's dog. They went after it last night. Just zoomies for days.
You know, we're in the market, James. We're getting back to the time where I need a dog. My beloved Italian Mastiff Cane Corso, Mr. President, has been gone for almost 3 years now.
Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Love that name.
Iconic dog. He was amazing, right? But he's been gone for coming up on 3 years, and it's time to get another one.
Yeah.
Because of my travel schedule, I have to kind of thread that needle, make sure that I'm going to be around for a good stretch whenever we adopt this new creature. But I've been on the hunt. I've been looking, and I got to tell you, it is hard to not want to get every dog available.
Yeah.
So I hope your dogs are exhausted. We need a dog in our life.
Yeah, do you have a specific breed that you are partial to, or is it just you just go at whatever breed it is, whatever one you connect with?
I want a big dog. I want I want a sizable dog so that when I'm gone, there's a presence in the house.
Yes.
But yeah, it doesn't have to be anything in particular. I've had giant breed dogs. I've had a medium-sized, heeler mix mutt. I've even had a tiny little, you know what a Brussels Griffon is?
I don't.
Yeah, look it up when you get a second. Yeah. They look like little Ewoks, and they're like
that sounds adorable.
They're like 10-pound dogs. They're awesome. Anyway, I love all dogs. I like cats too. I like animals. Anyway, hopefully your animals, your kids who act like animals, your spouses, your parents, everyone had a great Christmas, and maybe you got to enjoy your favorite foods, and hopefully you got to watch some sports. That's kind of where I want to start the discussion today, because typically Christmas Day was reserved for one sport in particular. Christmas Day was a basketball holiday. I have made the argument many times, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but I really do believe it would be fine if they decided to push back the start of basketball season and make it a big bang. Christmas Day is the tip-off of the entire season. Maybe we'll extend it a little bit further into the summer for the finals. I think you could take 30 games off the schedule. I know owners don't want to do that. I think you could take 20, 30 games off the schedule and still have a compelling product. In some ways, you might have a more compelling television and live product because there would be less load management situations going on, which they're already trying to fight against with rule changes and things like that. But Christmas Day is like when a lot of folks really kind of dial in and start paying attention to the NBA. And, of course, they have brought in the NBA Cup to try and make portions of the regular season more interesting for the fan base and incentivize ratings and viewership. And we've heard that conversation over and over again. Christmas was a basketball holiday for a lot of people for a long time. And what has Roger Goodell and the NFL done with every other day that was supposed to belong to someone else? They have elbowed their way in there. And we give it a pass, and we say, well, yeah, but it's football. Football is the juggernaut. Football is the big boys. The NFL is the big thing, is our America's pastime now. And so if the NFL wants to take over, I don't know, a college football Saturday, which they did not so long ago, and the NFL ratings blew out the college football ratings, a pair of NFL games in a hyper-relevant championship implication college football weekend, the NFL games pulled better ratings than the college football playoff games.
Yeah, and if the NFL is not your favorite league and football is not your favorite sport, it's concerning for sure. Because as me and I would say I'm technically in that camp. But I'm not that worried about basketball, my favorite sport in the NBA, my favorite league long term. But you have to be a little concerned with, and if college football is your favorite, you have to be a little concerned about, hey, like, will the NFL just consume everybody?
There's enough money and space and time for all these things to coexist, but it's really interesting the way that the NFL is sort of unapologetic now in this it's all about the bottom line era of not just sport but everything that we do in life. The NFL has said, all right, well, we're going to try Black Friday. We're going to do some stuff on Black Friday now. We already had actual Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving in NFL football, time-honored, long-standing tradition. We're going to keep that, and we're going to sneak some games in the following day, see if people respond to that. We have a new distribution partner with Amazon. They want to run this. That's more revenue for us. Let's see what we can do there. Oh, look at that. It's starting to catch on a little bit, only 2 years in. Great. Hey, why don't we try to put some NFL games on Christmas Day? And it's not like they're sneaking it in, James. It's not like they're doing it quietly. The halftime show in Houston was like a Super Bowl halftime show. You had Beyonce and 200 white-clad cowboy backup dancers. It was actually a little bit confusing because it was a game in Texas, and there was a cowboy theme, but it was not actual Dallas Cowboys. It was a little confusing, Beyonce. You should have gone with a different theme for your halftime show.
You should on a Texans theme.
It was a bunch of folks dressed in white Cowboys gear.
Yeah, that's true.
In any case.
That does make you think Dallas Cowboys.
Like, my 5-year-old daughter was just like, is this the Cowboys? And
maybe do the cowboy gear, but in red, white, and blue Texans colors or something.
In any case, it's not like the NFL was just like they kind of did with the first Black Friday game, where they were just like, all right, Amazon, do your thing, figure it out. This one, it was like, okay, get the Queen Bee herself, the Queen Bey herself. Beyonce's going to do a halftime show that will rival whatever the Super Bowl halftime show is, and it's a Christmas Day. You better pay attention. All the guys sitting around after the kids opened the presents that their wives wrapped, this is the carrot that you dangle to the spouse, and you say, here's the Beyonce halftime show. That's why you are okay with me watching this game on Christmas Day, the same way that I sat in front of the television, stuffed my face, and watched NFL football on Thanksgiving Day. The NFL is elbowing its way into every other spot. Are you okay with it? I'm fine with it because it's all a meritocracy, right? And because we still have options. If I want to watch college football on a college football Saturday and there's NFL games going on, for me, my number one, my favorite sports product on television is college football. I'm always going to watch college football even over the NFL. Unless it's like a year where the San Francisco 49ers are really dang good and you get a premier matchup, then maybe you can convince me on a college football Saturday to watch the NFL instead. In most cases, I'm going to save the NFL for Sunday and for Monday night. And I guess I got to save it for Thursday.
The Thursday games have been much better this year.
I don't know.
The matchups have been much better anyway.
And by the way, like these games that are being played right now, there are teams playing 3 games in 11 days.
Yeah.
Over this stretch.
The Texans and Chiefs played each other last Saturday, and then they played yesterday.
And the quality of competition you got from the Texans might have indicated that that's the case.
Yeah, 2 points.
31-2, they lose to the Ravens, and the Ravens looked awesome.
Is that a Yankees-A's game? My goodness. What is that score?
The Chiefs are – it is now death taxes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable what they have done over these last going on 3 years, and it looks like they're having fun doing it. I tweeted this out yesterday. You see Andy Reid come into the locker room, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, have the big puffer jackets with the Santa Claus fur on them. And then Andy Reid comes in full Santa Claus regalia and goes, "How about them Chiefs?" They're having a blast. And, of course, it's easy to have fun when you're 15-1. You've clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC. You now can kind of rest and recover and get everyone healthy before you make your run to what could be an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl. And we'll talk about that with Eric Weddle, who's going to join us on the show today. Coming up at 12:30, Gordy Chiesa also joining us on the show today. That is always brought to you by Alvi Armani and alviarmani.com. For all of you dealing with the hair loss issues, you don't have to just suffer through it anymore. alviarmani.com for your thinning hair. Get that full head of hair back. But the Chiefs it's inevitable. And that's, like you said, that's a game played on 4 days' notice.
Yeah. So everyone, I'm sure, is saying this is why Christmas Day, even if it lands in the beginning of the week, is a bad idea. Because look what the Texans did. They played 4 days ago, and they only scored 2 points on Christmas on what was supposed to be a marquee matchup. But then, wait a minute. The Chiefs played them 4 days ago, and they put up 29 points, only gave up 10
and then
on the road.
Patrick Mahomes raises his hand and goes, "I played one of my best games of the year." And Travis Kelce raises his hand and goes, I set the all-time touchdown reception record for this franchise on that day. I had a really solid game myself. We're the two biggest stars on the team, and we were fine. We were fine. I get it, right? The NFL, you're a professional. Every moment of your life is dedicated to this. But when you see something like that from the best players at their position in the league, or guys who are among the best players at that position in the league, I guess you could make a case against Travis Kelce being the best tight end currently in NFL football. If you're a member of the Texans, you can't complain.
No.
If you're D'Amico Ryans, you can't be like, "Well, why'd you make us do this?" Because Andy Reid is sitting down dressed as Santa Claus having a good chuckle about his 15th win of the season.
By the way, did you see the tidbit? It was all over Twitter. I hadn't realized it till I saw it. First 15-win team in the 17-game era.
Oh, wow.
So it's only the 4th season of that, but still, we hadn't had a 15-win team. Had plenty in the 16-game era, but now that there's a game and added this, the Chiefs are the first to win at least 15, and they have a chance to tie the Patriots for most regular season wins, which is kind of cool for a team that's not undefeated.
It's a little bit of a cheat code.
It is, but yeah.
Undefeated in the regular season, more impressive than
Well, definitely.
more wins in a season where you have more games. But still, I mean, to pretend you're not impressed by the Kansas City Chiefs right now, you're just being obtuse. That team is unbelievable and continues to be unbelievable. And if it's them or the field to win the Super Bowl this year, it's actually a tough decision on which. Do I think the Chiefs can do it, do something that's never been done? Or do I bet that any of the other 31 teams in the league might actually make it happen?
Honestly, I've gotten to the point, even though they have looked not near as good enough offensively, just like last season. They look better than they did last season, but they still don't look like they're near as good enough offensively. Even though that's the case, I keep seeing them survive and advance like it's a single season or a single elimination tournament, like the playoffs in the regular season this year. And I go, I can't say anyone's going to beat them. Like, especially if Buffalo doesn't get it done again, if Baltimore doesn't get it done again, I don't see a team in the NFC beating them.
Yeah, I think that AFC Championship game is the de facto Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I could see.
As good as and as impressive as the Lions have been, I don't see it.
So let me ask you this. I put the poll question out there. I actually did this last night trying to get ahead of things. I patted myself on the back for being like, I'm working on Christmas.
Working on Christmas.
Grinder
right there.
Can't stop, won't stop. Did a little work on Christmas. The sports plus holiday pairing that is best. The options I put out there, and Elon, if you're listening, I know he's a big fan of the show. the Twitter poll, you could give us more options than just the 4. It wouldn't hurt you to do 6. It's like the expanded college football playoff. I get it. If you give us 6, people are going to be arguing for 8. It's like NCAA March Madness. If you give us 64 teams, people are going to be arguing that you should expand the field to 72. But on the Twitter poll, you give us 4 options. You'd be fine to give us 6.
What option has the biggest argument for being allowed in? 5, 6? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were. You mentioned March Madness. I was thinking bubble teams.
Yes, with the bubble
debate.
So I put the options for holiday and sports pairing: NFL and Thanksgiving, NBA and Christmas Day, July 4th and baseball. Feels very, very American anytime you're watching baseball on the 4th of July. And then New Year's Day and college football, because, of course, traditionally, a lot of those great heritage bowl games were New Year's Day bowl games. And even still, as the landscape changes, the New Year's 6 bowls have a special distinction and special place for a lot of people and have been embraced by the expanded college football playoff to be playoff games and things like that. So for you, James Peterson, holiday plus sport, if I'm going to take away the rest of them, which one do you absolutely need in order for it to feel like that holiday is complete?
I'm disappointed you don't have baseball Memorial Day, baseball Labor Day. No,
baseball Arbor Day. Unfortunately, baseball goes so long.
There's a lot. Flag Day baseball, man. That's better than anything. No, as I told you, I'm a basketball fan first, NBA fan first. So NBA and Christmas has been that for me. Recent years has not been as good. And yeah, we've talked about as part of that is the NFL has put a better product on Christmas, but I'll still go with NBA Christmas.
The thing is, right, the NBA games yesterday were great games.
Yeah, they were fun.
You had a lot of really fun games. I didn't watch 4 quarters of any of them, but caught some of each, and they were fantastic matchups. They were a lot of fun. LeBron James and Steph Curry slugging it out and back and forth and down to the wire. Like that is an NBA marketer's dream. And it happens on the biggest stage on Christmas Day. It's as good as it can get for the NBA. Conversely, on the NFL side of things, neither of those games were that interesting. The Chiefs are interesting because you have to look on in distaste and awe, or a combination of distaste and awe, like I have for them. Just like, oh, they're so good. Why do they have to be so good? I'm sick of them being so good, because I kept ruining things for the 49ers, although the 49ers can't blame the Chiefs this year.
No.
So I got to find somewhere else to direct my ire on the San Francisco 49ers. But a 31-2 game is not interesting.
No, it's true.
It's not like must-watch television.
And 29-10 wasn't very interesting either. I mean, it was a back and forth first half. But
sure.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, those games were not better games than what you saw from the NBA contest. Even if you go with like the Spurs-Knicks, like there were
that was a really good one.
Awesome game. Like you're watching Victor Wembanyama continue to do things that people aren't supposed to be able to do.
Another incredible game by him. And by the way, he's starting to make it look like he didn't have a spectacular game. It's his second year. He's starting to do the Jokic thing, LeBron thing, the Giannis thing, where it's like, okay, yeah, I've seen that before. It's not that big a deal. You look at the box score, 37 points, 11 boards, 4 blocks, or maybe he had 27, whatever it was. Or a 5x5 with a 30-point 5x5, a 50-point triple-double, and you're like, wait, what? Like he's becoming that good.
Right. Where greatness becomes routine for
There's
somebody.
Another one yesterday,
who's
sure.
20 years old, right? So back to the point, though, the Christmas Day basketball games were better television. If you were watching those, that was more compelling, that was more interesting, that was more edge of your seat than what you saw from the NFL. And yet, when it all comes out in the wash, we get the final numbers on Netflix streaming those NFL games and how many people tuned in, they're going to be massive numbers. And I would venture a guess that those numbers are going to beat the NBA on Christmas Day, a long-established product. So you're not wrong, James, for liking the NBA on Christmas more as a basketball fan more than a football fan, but the juggernaut that is the NFL just keeps churning along and mowing over whatever is potentially up against it or in its way. By the way, let me look. I suppose we don't have to wait as long for ratings when you're talking about Netflix NFL Christmas Day numbers. I'm Googling on the air. The games were tracked by Nielsen. Viewership data is expected to be made public later this week.
Okay,
so we do have to wait.
Streaming. Are you streaming numbers? We probably have, or were you?
Well, the Netflix is all streaming numbers.
Yeah. Right, that's what I mean. The Netflix numbers we probably have. We need to wait a little bit on the NBA numbers. Is that what you're saying?
We have to wait on the NFL numbers. Because the NFL games were on Netflix.
Okay, gotcha.
Which also, Netflix.
I would have thought it'd be the other way around. I would have thought Netflix would have it more
that's what
immediately available. Yeah,
that's what I thought was going to happen. This is from Front Office Sports.
Okay, they get things right, so we'll trust Front Office Sports.
They're the standard, by the way. The baseline set for Netflix and live sports streaming was, of course, that bizarre situation with Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. That peaked at 65 million concurrent streams, okay? That was 38 million in the United States. Now, NFL games are going to be 99% U.S. streams. They're not going to have the global audience that Mike Tyson is able to draw. The big difference, as Netflix very deliberately rolled out that event before they did their NFL Christmas Day games, is I saw not one iota of complaining or technical issues associated with Netflix NFL games. Is that because there weren't nearly the same numbers, or because Netflix used that Tyson-Paul bout as the test case and then fixed all the bugs? Maybe we'll find out when we get the numbers from the NFL. But we're going to take the NFL on Netflix numbers, and we're going to put them next to the NBA on Christmas that's been going on for decades numbers, and it's either going to be really dang close or the NFL could potentially win, even with bad games. And if I am anyone in or around NBA circles and I see something like that, baseball's already had to wave its white flag on television ratings compared to the NFL, and that's fine because they have built their business model differently than the NFL has. We saw that pie chart, I guess, a couple of weeks ago of revenue distribution for these leagues and how baseball leans so heavily on actual in-person attendance and ticket numbers, and they can because it's 162 games. NFL can't do that. They got 17 games, and their money comes from television ratings. And their television ratings reflect that. And it doesn't even have to be a compelling product every single time because you're still going to tune in.
It could be one of those throwaway doubleheader Monday night games that are always awful.
The other thing about Netflix with live sports streaming that's going to be really fascinating for me, and I'm sure there's television technology already that allows this, but it's harder to flip away from a Netflix game to the other game that's on. On every college football Saturday, we're all doing this, right? Where you pull up the game that you're actually wanting to watch and the secondary and tertiary games that you want to watch, and then whenever the first one goes to commercial, you just hit that back button and it flips to the other channel. And now the menus are so good on your TV that it just pulls up at the bottom of the screen. You can scroll to the last 3 or 4 things that you were watching, right? Netflix, harder to flip away from.
Yeah, and I find the same problem with Thursday Night Football on Prime. You got to have either 2 TVs or a computer or laptop, your phone open to Prime or Netflix, and then the other sports that you want to watch, NBA, whatever it is, on the Thursday night on your TV. So I've had it up on the laptop and then watching on the TV, which, listen, it's not as that's not as good of an experience as just being able to hit back, like you just said, last channel.
Right now, the poll at Real OC Sports on Twitter, if you have not yet voted, is showing a strong football bias, as we might expect here in the United States. NFL plus Thanksgiving, that's 40.5% of the votes. College football on New Year's Day, almost 47% of the votes. So 6% of people agree with you that the NBA Christmas thing is their favorite holiday sports pairing. And then baseball actually has a little bit more. July 4th baseball, 6.6%. So I'm genuinely surprised, even though it wouldn't have been my answer. I'm genuinely surprised to see the NBA on Christmas being in last place.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening for me to see that, because this is this is more evidence that, assuming most of these are coming from people in our market listening to the show and who follow you on Twitter and ESPN 700 on Twitter, this is more evidence that it's become more of a college football market than probably anything else, because this has been a long time NBA market. So it's a little disheartening to see that the NBA is last, you could say tied for last, because baseball's barely ahead of them. It's a little disheartening, but I'm not that surprised, given, like I said, college football kind of has become number one here, and Jazz and NBA have kind of taken a back seat.
You know, we'll ask Gordy Chiesa how problematic this could be for the NBA, that the NFL has started to encroach onto Christmas territory, an island that belonged to the NBA for a significant portion of the kind of rise of sports being a main driver of television ratings and advertising dollars. The NBA had staked its claim on Christmas Day matchups, and they have scheduled accordingly, and they have given you phenomenal matchups like some of the ones you saw yesterday. They have showcased the top talents in the league. LeBron James hasn't had a Christmas Day with his family in 20 years.
Yeah, I think it's been every season, because he played as a rookie on Christmas Day.
He has played every Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Since he's been in the NBA.
Speaking of him as a rookie, you know that I'm a bit of a basketball history junkie. If you have a chance to go back and watch his duel with Tracy McGrady in 2004 when he's a rookie and not near as good, not near close to a superstar, they both went for 40-plus points at Cavs Magic. That was one of my favorite Christmas Day games ever from him as a rookie year.
Were you listening to Covino and Rich filling in for Dan Patrick
Just a little bit, yeah.
So they were doing a big longevity thing, like who's got the most impressive longevity in sports and entertainment. They used Metallica as the jumping off point for this because it's like Lars Ulrich's birthday or something like that.
They've had some longevity.
They've had some great longevity, but I think there's way better examples than Metallica, even though they're phenomenal.
Kind of a shoving that in to work with being his birthday today. Yeah.
But they were taking calls of like who's had the most impressive longevity, and there were some great observations, right? Like Snoop Dogg coming in. People saying how he's reinvented himself and now has like a global audience instead of just this niche of he was kind of anti-establishment pioneer rapper and all this stuff. A bunch of great and thoughtful responses. I was amazed by how long it took for someone to call in and say LeBron James.
Yeah.
Because LeBron James sustained greatness in the NBA. Really, like you said with Victor Wembanyama, he has become so routine. And yes, his personality is a little cringy at some point, so I think that does affect it. But the guy is approaching 40 and is still one of the main draws in NBA basketball. Yeah. And he's arguably the most significant voice continually in NBA basketball. And whether you want to, dance on the potential grave of NBA ratings and say, well, it's partially because you lean too heavily into LeBron, whatever, the dude is doing it at a level that nobody his age should be capable of doing it, especially after maintaining that greatness for the entirety of his career since he was 19 years old. Anyway, Gordy Chiesa is going to stop by next. We'll see what he got for Christmas, and we'll talk to him about the NFL jumping in where the NBA once had exclusive rights. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 700. Day after Thanksgiving, Hanukkah starting, little Kwanzaa celebration going on. Gordy Chiesa swings by to talk NBA basketball as our resident NBA insider. Gordy, how are you?
Sean, I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Did you have a happy Christmas, Gordy?
I did, absolutely. It was very fun being with family and giving out presents. You know, Sean, I'm a big present giver, if you know what I mean.
Well,
so
the knowledge you drop on this show is a gift to all of us, and I imagine you're a thoughtful guy, Gordy, so I imagine you're an excellent gift giver. You're probably the guy that, notices that one thing somebody says, oh, look at that sweater. Oh, you know what I really like? Mention some obscure thing. I bet you're the guy who squirrels that information away, and then, boom, that's the present under the tree.
You got it, very much. But also, add to that, I give my wife all these different gifts. I shower with gifts, spa gifts, the whole thing.
Good,
you
yes.
Sean, your wife?
Yes, Gordy, let me tell you what a great gift giver I am. I got my wife exactly what she wanted and needed this year. Here's the problem. I procrastinated just a little bit too long, so those packages did not arrive in time for Christmas. I am the absolute worst.
All right, so you have to make it up to her.
Yeah.
And my wife's stock line to me is that, remember, keep the receipts.
I like that.
Just in case, keep the receipts. Okay, I'll keep them.
All right, let's talk about this Christmas Day slate of NBA games. Before we get into the matchups, the specifics, the performances from some of the NBA's brightest stars, established and rising stars, the NFL, we were just talking about this. The NFL staged a couple of Christmas Day games themselves, and they did it in partnership with Netflix, a different distribution model, different streaming, all of that stuff. The games weren't all that compelling. The matchups weren't great. The scores weren't close. The NBA games were definitely better television, definitely better viewing. But the NFL, we haven't seen the numbers yet. The response has been positive, the NFL's presence on Christmas Day. How problematic is this for the NBA that has typically owned this holiday and had that space there in kind of American pop culture, at least, now that the NFL has decided to elbow its way in?
Oh, very much. It's a concern. And the NFL rules, there's no doubt about it that you've seen, Sean, over the years, a World Series playoff game, we'll say Game 6 or Game 7 of a World Series, is the ratings are lower than a regular season NFL game on a Monday night. And this is just the beginning of it. So, Sean, that game with the Vikings, that was a good game. The Vikings game the other day, yesterday, that was a hard-fought game at the end.
Yeah, look, the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs played one another, 4 days ago, and those teams played again on 4 days' notice. One looked like it was ready to go. The other one didn't. That's part of the conversation around that. And we know this is a big thing in the NBA, who gets enough rest, who doesn't get enough rest. But at the end of the day, right, even if the product isn't all that compelling, if the individual game isn't all that hard fought or closely contested, it seems like the NFL just wins these ratings battles and just kind of bulldozes whatever the competition is. But the NBA has been so long established and is deliberately scheduled to showcase the very best version of its product on Christmas Day. I don't know that we could say what we saw from the NFL yesterday was the best version of its product, but the NBA, is it going to be able to continue to win in those ratings if the NFL commits to Christmas Day more?
It's unlikely. So NFL will rule, and so the NBA's got to figure out either have less games or even have more compelling games. But sure, with that said, that first game on TV, the early game in the Garden, with Victor Wembanyama, you and I talked about in length the last few days, is that he played spectacular in a 117-114 Spurs loss to the Knicks, where he gets 42 points, 18 rebounds, 4 blocks, and it's almost like he's coming out party nationally, almost. But then Mikal Bridges of the Knicks gets 41 points. And that was a historical game for both guys because that was the first time since 1961 that two opposing players scored 40 or more points in a Christmas Day game. So Wembanyama was absolutely he busted it out, and he's the future of the NBA.
Do these players? This is probably a stupid question. Do players get any extra anything for being slated on Christmas Day, for being scheduled on Christmas Day? We were just talking about this. LeBron hasn't had a full available Christmas with his family for 20 years. I imagine the same is going to be the case for Victor Wembanyama. They're going to continue to put him on Christmas Day because it is that showcase piece for the NBA. Is there do they get an extra nice hotel that particular week? Do they get an extra, I don't know, little bump on the it's all collectively bargained. So I can't imagine there's incentive really to play on Christmas Day.
No, the answer is it's part of the 182nd of your contract as far as games. But with that said, though, you get an individual platform. So here we are talking about Mikal Bridges. So people say, Mikal Bridges, what team is he on? Was he on the Nets? Wasn't he on the Nets? So the Knicks now. And so the point about that is that for the players, they want to be on Christmas Day because they call it the crossover audience, where people that like sports, that really don't know all the NBA players, might suddenly hear a guy's name and then suddenly follow that person's career. And so it's a great way to increase your individual platform, and that's why the players like it. Also, it's a sign of that the NBA respects, quote, our team, and also myself as a player, that they want us to be on national television. And then, Sean, the next part about that was the classic game also of the these two stars were bowling out last night also. The Lakers 115 over the Warriors in San Francisco, 113, where LeBron played absolutely spectacular. 31 points, 10 assists, only one turnover, and in 37 minutes, 12 for 22 shooting. And then Steph Curry, his Olympian sidekick, he goes for 38 points, including 17 points in the fourth quarter to try to hold on the Lakers. But Austin Reeves didn't cooperate. He made that great spin layup at with less than a second left to win it for the Lakers. And you saw how excited they were. The game was over, and they all started at half court really tackling in a fun way Austin Reeves, because in these guys, again, it's important for Christmas or any victory that they won this game.
You had Suns over the Nuggets on Christmas Day, Lakers, Warriors, as Gordy was just talking about, two of the biggest stars in the NBA slugging it out. LeBron James, 31 points, 10 assists. Steph Curry, 38 points, 6 assists. Sixers, Celtics, 118-114 in Philadelphia's favor there. And then the Timberwolves, Mavericks, also the other feature game aside from that Spurs and Knicks contest that we already discussed. So, you go down the rosters of those teams, and, of course, this is the NBA saying, all right, these are our best teams. These are the players we want to showcase. How much of that is you've already established yourself as a great team? You've already established yourself as a player that people have high expectations for. And how much does the NBA say, all right, well, we want this guy who's got, maybe like an international player in an emerging market. Like this guy's got connections in China, and we want China to be a big market for us, so let's put him on Christmas Day. Do they use that? Is this a mechanism that the NBA uses to push its own agenda, or is this a response to what the fans are already telling them?
No, it's a definitely the big picture is as far as the global market. Now, however, so Sean, back in August, so here's the NBA calendar. You go through intense free agency, where so-and-so suddenly signs with a team or re-signs with a team. And then they give out the first part of the schedule, and then they wait to give out the total, the final part of the schedule as far as publicly, and then they tweak the games. So the NBA schedule makers got it wrong. We didn't see the Thunder on national television, meaning Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We didn't see Giannis television. We didn't see the Cavaliers, the best record in basketball, 26-4, with Donovan Mitchell and Eric Mobley, a young star. We didn't see him, and also we didn't see John Morant of the Grizzlies. And so you can make a narrative that those guys might have attracted more eyeballs also, especially if they were playing each other. Usually speaking, because of Christmas, minus the Lakers versus the Celtics. Minus, like to play Christmas Day games only one time zone away, or the exact same time zone, so it's not as taxing on the players and their families either to leave Christmas Eve or return back Christmas night back home. So if you know, it's Celtics versus the 76ers. Knicks hosted the Warriors one time. Excuse me, Knicks hosted the Spurs one time away. The Lakers, Warriors in the exact same time zone, etc. So that's the reason why they do that for.
Do guys typically bring their families with them, or do they just rush back and have Christmas the next day or whatever?
Okay, most times the teams provide for the players and family. They're part of the team playing going to it. So usually speaking, most times that those players would have with their families Christmas morning celebrating probably in a family room at the hotel. So it's really kind of neat. And Jazz basketball, the last time the Jazz played on Christmas Day was December 2021. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert last year and Joe Ingles last year as far as in Jazz basketball. Hopefully, in the Jazz point of view, someday they'll play on Christmas Day, which will be happening.
Gordy, how many times did you have to miss Christmas Day with the family because you were coaching a game?
No, what happened was the opposite. We only had one. As great as our team was, is that the way Frank Layden structured it as far as being general manager, we always went away every year for 4, 5, 6 games back east. And that before Christmas, they called it, and Jazz did it this year again. They called it the pre-Christmas trip. Christmas. So when I was with the Jazz for 16 years, we only hosted one Christmas. We only had one Christmas Day game, whether home or away. We hosted the Rockets, and we beat them at home, and that was a happening. So then years later, the Jazz played with Donovan Mitchell. They played 3 times on Christmas Day, 2 times home, 1 time away.
Fascinating. Gordy Chase, our guest here, post-Christmas NBA Day on the Sean O'Connell Show. Utah Jazz not in action on Christmas Day. They are in action against the Portland Trailblazers. What are you looking for in this matchup?
Well, last time the Jazz played the Trailblazers, they rocked them up in Portland. They're up by 37 points during the second quarter. I look for the Jazz to win. Yeah, the Jazz. My instincts tell me that they're somewhat tired of losing, and at Count section, those guys they're gonna rally. And I look for the Jazz to get a win tonight, and then the Jazz come home, and then they play 2 straight home games versus the 76ers on Saturday night, and then they host again the Denver Nuggets on Monday night. So a matchup tonight to watch it will be young Donovan Klinger, who's the younger version of a big guy that's going to challenge Walker Kessler. So Klinger was the 7th pick of the draft via UConn is going to play tonight in the lane against the Jazz players. So let's watch that matchup. So two young big guys as far as playing and competing in the lane should be interesting. So we'll see if Walker Kessler can keep continuing. He's played relatively well the whole season. So I look for the Jazz to win tonight.
Gordy, where do you stand on DeAndre Ayton? Obviously, he's part of this Trailblazers roster, but former top pick and a guy that we watched a lot of his basketball when Utah was a Pac-12 basketball team. He's had a less than spectacular impact in the NBA. Is that an injury situation? Is that they've mishandled him in each different franchise stop he's had? They've mishandled him from a coaching standpoint. Why is DeAndre Ayton not a bigger star in this league?
I add to that would be it's self-inflicted by him. It's that he wants to he demands the ball, but he can't finish often. So even though he's ultra talented and his body frame is very strong, he's got almost like a finesse game. So he's a big, strong guy that would rather, avoid contact in the lane or shoot way too many perimeter shots when he should catch and drive to the basket. So he's based on his talent level, he's somewhat underperforming. Is that this is 7th season in the NBA, pardon me, first draft pick in 2018 out of Arizona. And so is that teams, meaning the Trailblazers, they're not sure if he's part of their future. Donovan Klinger is if they could trade, if the Trailblazers could trade DeAndre Ayton, they would.
What's your list today, Gordy?
The list today is right on cue, Sean, about LeBron James and longevity. All right, it's a short list. Longevity NBA players competing at a high level into their age 40s. So, Sean, age 40s. Now, Sean, I know that you're age 41, ready to rock and roll again. I know you still are. I get it, because you were born in 1983. Last time you told me that. All right.
Correct.
So these guys are somewhat your age group, which is great for you and great for them. Here we go. So these are the best players that still had game at over age 40 in the NBA. Number 10, Robert Parrish, age 43, was still competing. Number 9, Manu Ginobili, age 41 for the Spurs. Number 8, Dirk Nowitzki, age 41, when he retired, still had that fadeaway jump shot for the Mavs. Number 7, his last team was the Lakers, age 41, Steve Nash, two-time MVP. Number 6, he adjusted his game as his legs suddenly, over the years of all that jumping. Vince Carter, he played at an elite level to age 43. He became really a knockdown three-point shooter versus what? A kangaroo jumper. Number 5, Karl Malone, age 41. 4, John Stockton, played at a high level till age 41. He could have played till age 45 at a high level. Number 3, Michael Jordan, all time. With the Wizards, end of his career, he was still getting 40 points in some of the games at age 40. All right, number 2, all time, as far as having an elite game, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played at a high level till age 42, and the number 1 player in the history of basketball to play at an incredible level. You can make this discussion, Sean, that he's still in the top 10 players as we speak in the NBA, LeBron James. He turns 40 this Monday, December 30th. Here's his stats for this season at age 40. 23.5 points per game, 9 assists, 7.9 rebounds, and 35 minutes per game. And so 11 years with the Cavs, 4 years with the Heat, and 7 with the Lakers, his 22nd season in the NBA. Here's the last point. The Spurs will join this group. This May 6th. So eventually next year when we have this list again, is that Chris Paul will be on this list as far as playing at an elite level age 40. All these guys have paid the price for conditioning, flexibility. As the years went on, they have more on-the-ground plays versus airborne. They all developed somewhat of a range shot, and more importantly, the last point is this, mentally focused. They still enjoy the game and their teammates.
Okay, before I let you go, Gordy, based on that list, and no disputing all those guys, great, even into advanced age, at least as an athlete, and of course, they did have to make certain changes to their game. Give me a guy in the NBA right now who you think is a great player, maybe he's in his 20s, whatever, maybe he's still in his early 30s, who you think could last for a long time, but he's going to have to change that game. He's going to have to develop a shot. Who's someone who could be on this list if he makes a couple of changes?
Luka Doncic.
Okay.
Because he plays on the ground even now. So he'll play for a long, long, long time. So his shot's good right now. But think about it, he's not really airborne. Yeah. Once you go airborne, and when you have those young legs, as a lot of these guys do, eventually it's just so much wear and tear on your lower part of your body. So Luka could play at a high level till age 40-something.
If only I would have known, Gordy. This is why I needed you in my life a lot sooner, because I always played basketball on the ground. I could have been like Luka. I could have lasted into my 40s in the NBA. No one ever told me.
You are a work in progress.
Oh, Gordy, thank you so much for your time. Love talking to you, my friend.
Thank you. Peace out.
Gordy Chiesa. You know, it's so funny because he simplifies it in such a way, and I love just his manner of speaking. A guy like Luka, who does not get airborne, does not predicate his success in the NBA on vertical or explosiveness or really even speed, he's going to play forever. Seems like an obvious answer. All right, Sean O'Connell Show continues. An important milestone reached in the NFL in a Christmas Day game. We'll talk about that next. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sebastian Maniscalco bringing his It Ain't Right tour to the Maverick Center January 17th. You can listen to The Drive with Spence Checketts for your chance to win a pair of tickets. Find details at ESPN700sports.com. James Peterson, how do you feel about running quarterbacks in college football?
In college football?
Yeah.
I feel better about them in college football than I do NFL. So
I was about to ask you how you feel
yeah.
about running quarterbacks in the NFL. Lamar Jackson broke a Michael Vick record, most rushing yards by an NFL quarterback in the history of the league. He had 87 yards in a Christmas Day victory and now has 6,110 career rushing yards, more than Michael Vick's total. And, of course, he's only, 27 years of age. Plenty of gas left in the tank. He's going to add to that. I mean, he could be a 10,000-yard rusher by the time his career is over.
He really could be. A 7th year in the league, I believe, and Vic did it over about 16 years. Like, that's impressive. Now, I'm not anti-running mobile quarterback. I mean, I think that in the NFL, especially, we've seen that they're more and more valuable. And Lamar has been MVP twice now. Like he's been awesome other than some playoff games. But I still believe, especially in the NFL, the guys who can throw, the guys who can be accurate throwing, almost regardless of their mobility, certainly if they're able to gain yards as a runner, those guys tend to the teams that have those guys tend to win more than the teams that have the awesome running quarterback who's secondarily a good thrower.
Lamar's a good passer.
Yeah.
He is elite. He's now the best in the history of the league. And to the point you just made, it took Michael Vick 13 seasons.
13.
It has taken him 41 games fewer in his resume, and he's already eclipsed the yardage total.
I think I said 15 because looking at his career, it started in 2000 and in 2015, but I forgot about the 2-year prison sentence. So yeah, it's
ouch.
It's 13. Yeah.
Trivia question: whose record did Michael Vick break to be the all-time leading rusher?
Randall Cunningham.
Correct.
Hey,
correct.
The only other scrambling running quarterback that I know. Pre Michael Vick, anyway.
Anyway, Lamar Jackson, incredible, and I really do believe that he could be a 10,000-yard rusher by the time it's all said and done.
Can you even imagine?
That's
a Hall of Fame running backs numbers.
That's it.
Traditionally,
it's interesting though because it's an extension of what we talked about with Gordy Chiesa on the NBA level, right? Like longevity with this style of play for Lamar Jackson is going to be a lot harder to obtain, to achieve, because he does rely so heavily on his athleticism, his backyard football abilities, his instinct, and his game at some point, not yet because he's 27 years old, but at some point is going to have to slow down and be more stationary and be more predicated on what you were just talking about, that Peyton Manning style. I'm just going to stand back here,
Tom Brady,
assess the defense, and I'm going to throw. Those guys, look, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning are elite athletes compared to you and I. They're not elite athletes compared to their peers in the NFL, and yet they played as long or longer at a higher level than most guys because of exactly what Gordy was talking about on the basketball front. Their game was on the ground. The equivalent of a basketball player who doesn't jump. That's what those guys were. So, awesome. I love watching Lamar Jackson. I wonder when that happens for him, because it's not going to happen as soon as it does for other people unless he gets hit really hard. He is truly, truly special, not just as a runner, but as a quarterback, as a football player. He's got that thing that other people have a hard time even understanding. At some point, though, whether it's when he's 30, 32, hopefully he gets to 34 or 35 before he has to make that decision. I just wonder when it's going to happen because I want to see this number continue to blow up.
Yeah, I agree. And let's be clear, I root for Lamar Jackson. I think the guy has been doubted way too often as a quarterback, especially when he's been in the NFL. I root for him to break through. I believe that he's capable of breaking through and leading the Ravens to a Super Bowl championship. I don't know. If you're asking me if I would take him over Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, I'd say no. I'd take Mahomes or Allen, even though they're mobile. Allen certainly gains a lot of yards as a rusher, but their game is predicated on their arms. And Mahomes uses mobility to extend plays more than to gain yardage, So I trust that way more than I trust the spectacular running ability and just incredible playmaking of Lamar Jackson when it comes down to playoff time and Super Bowls.
I don't like this from Lamar Jackson postgame. He was told, hey, did you know you hit 21.25 miles an hour on one of these runs, on the run that broke the record?
Yeah.
And he looked at the reporter and said, for real, I was jogging. Don't do that, Lamar. Okay? Don't do that.
Just take the compliment, my guy.
For those of us who could never, even like wind aided, we could never approach 20 miles an hour sprinting, much less 21. Don't be like, oh, that was easy. I was jogging. That's mean. That's a flex, and I don't like it. Also,
early grievance
because he passed Michael Vick, right? Did you see what happened for Michael Vick this week?
I missed that.
He was named head coach of Norfolk State.
Right. Sorry. Yes, I thought it was some NFL-related thing.
No,
yes, I saw that he was named head coach. Yeah,
he's a head college football coach now. Raise your hand if you can tell me Michael Vick's resume in coaching so far.
He hasn't coached, has he?
Correct.
Correct.
I'm like,
is this a trick question?
Correct.
Yes, it is.
It's amazing. Like this is amazing. Look, it has worked in other industries. It has worked in other sports. It has worked where a guy just has the right credential. He has the right talent. He has the right voice. He has the right whatever, and he doesn't have experience. And you just say, all right, here you go. Here's the keys to our kingdom. And Norfolk State is a place where you can kind of kick the tires. You can test that out. It's not like he's getting a Florida State job in his first job ever. But it is fascinating that it's just like you're from the area and you're one of the best football players ever to come out of this area. Here's the job. That's wild, but it's awesome. I hope we see him be successful.
I do too. I wonder, he doesn't have the Hall of Fame resume quite like Deion Sanders, but he does have for his era, he was, especially in Atlanta, he was that cool factor guy that Deion was. Everyone wanted to be Deion, everyone wanted to be Michael Vick kind of thing in his run. I wonder if he's going to have a similar effect if he ends up at FBS level, of a similar effect to in recruiting and bringing elevating a profile of a university like Deion has to Colorado and Jackson State before that.
All right, we're way over time. Got to take a break. There's a very critical question being processed by not only Utah football, but a lot of football programs right now related to the transfer portal and how to retain your own talent. We're going to address this question, and I put it out on the Twitter poll. When somebody agrees to stay and agrees to an NIL contract and then comes to you a couple of weeks later, a couple of days later, it comes to you at a later date and says this is no longer good enough. We talked about this on the show the day before Christmas, all right? They come to you and they say, it's not enough, actually. You've got to give me more. What is your choice as a coach, as someone in charge of a program? Do you cave and do you pay more because that's the business now? Or do you stand on principle and do you let your good players walk? We're going to discuss it next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700. All right, Eric Weddle is going to join us in 15 minutes or so on the program. Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 700. Day after Christmas. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, a belated one to all of you. Hopefully it's been great. Time with family, or maybe you didn't want that. Time away from family if that's what you needed. Whatever it is. Utah football, in addition to figuring out the holiday situation, is now trying to build a roster for 2025, a roster that will be capable of a bounce-back year after a very, very disappointing 2024. This offseason cycle has already been really fascinating. First of all, no bowl game, no bowl eligibility for the first time in quite a while. A decision that seemed like it took longer than I wish it would have on whether or not Kyle Whittingham was coming back or he was going to ride off into the sunset. No real surprise at the end of the day that he didn't want to go out on the note that was the 2024 football season. But now you've got to try to forge a path forward with your head coach in waiting in Morgan Scalley, with a contingent of players who, quite frankly, would rather Morgan Scalley be the head coach right now, and then another camp potentially in the locker room that was relieved and happy that Kyle Whittingham decided to stay on for one more year because he's the right guy in their mind. So you've got all these questions going on with player personnel, going on with the other coaches, and you've got to try and build your culture and establish your culture with a roster that's going to experience some very, very significant turnover, not just because of graduation, but also because of transfer. And we've seen some of the big names that have gone into the transfer portal. And look, I keep making the point that it's actually prohibitively rare that someone has left the University of Utah and improved their college football career. It just hasn't really happened a lot for people, and it's hard to cite any obvious example. Jaquindon Jackson left the program, went to Arkansas. That was hard for a lot of people to swallow. It made sense to me. It made sense to Jaquindon, which is the only thing that actually matters. And he had a great year at Arkansas. He did. So we can't say that that was a bad move for him. He had a great year at Arkansas. He's going to be an NFL running back because this team recognized his ability to be a running back, made the switch with him, and then he ended up, doing great things. So Jaquindon Jackson is a good example. Keanu Tanuvasa put his name into the transfer portal the day before Christmas Eve, and people were freaking out because that's a guy that you thought was going to be a staple for this Utah football program in a time of uncertainty and flux. And we don't know where he's headed or if he's headed anywhere, quite frankly, because remember, Mekhi Bernard put his name into the transfer portal and then ended up coming back out. So maybe they can work something out with Keanu Tanuvasa. I don't know if they're trying to. That's what I wanted to talk about. What do you do? Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley call you and say, hey, this is going to be your decision. These players that agreed to stay are now coming back to us, some of them, and saying, actually, we got to do a little bit better with our NIL. We got to do a little bit better with the promises of what my role on this team is going to be. We got to do a little bit better, make it a little bit sweeter proposition for me to be in a Utah uniform, because I'm getting phone calls. Tennessee likes me. USC wants me. Whatever. They got this much money and this much time for me. I need motivation to stay at the University of Utah. What is your decision as a real decision maker in this program? As Bobby Blecken, the GM, as Kyle Whittingham, the head coach, most importantly, as Morgan Scalley, the guy who's eventually going to take over the role as head coach. And so the culture needs to be what you hope it will be. What do you tell these guys? Because it's a business world. It's a what have you done for me lately? Well, what have I done for you lately? I offered you $250,000 to come play for us last year, and we shook hands and said that was enough. Yeah, but guess what? Arkansas has done for me lately. They offered me $400,000 next year. So now what have you done for me lately? In your job, whatever it is, you probably don't have a binding contract. Most employment agreements in a right-to-work state are just like, you're getting X salary for performing these duties. We have in the media business, typically we have binding contracts, right? So my analogy is a little bit different than your work scenario. But what would you do? Because right now, college football doesn't have binding contracts. Even though you can sign with the NIL, you're out of it as soon as you sign something else, which doesn't even make sense to me. I don't know why it is that way. It's crazy. James Peterson. Kyle Whittingham calls you and says, look, we love Keanu Tanuvasa. All of us do. But right now he's holding our feet to the fire. Do you say, you know what? It stinks, but it's a business situation. We got to not take it personally, and we got to pay up if we want him to stay. Or do you do what the team did, at least according to all the information I have, with the Cam Calhoun situation, and you say, that's not how we do things here at Utah. You stand on your word. You agreed to this. We agreed to this. Everyone was happy, and that's what it's going to be. Look, it didn't work out with Cam Calhoun that you took that stance. He's at Alabama, all right? So if Keanu Tanuvasa or any of the other guys who are in the rumor mill right now that are getting phone calls from BYU and USC and Washington and Oregon, if any of those guys come to you, what do you say? Because you might not have the funds, first of all, but even if you do, you might not want to give them to that guy. And if you do want to give them to that guy, and even if you have them, you do have to worry about the threat to your team culture that it is to negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah. Well, first off, let's be clear. I do have the funds.
Okay.
OC.
Okay. Fair enough.
I've got the
Yes. Silly of me to even propose the idea that you wouldn't.
I have the funds. No, but seriously, oh man, it's tough because as good as Keanu Tanuvasa was, and as good as Cam Calhoun was, and I think clearly Tanuvasa was better than Calhoun and his role at their roles, but I still don't know that either of them were the otherworldly guys that you feel like we need to bend over backwards to keep in the program. Am I just totally off base about that with Tanuvasa? Maybe I am.
No, I don't think you are.
Because
look, he is.
He's not Devin Lloyd. Like, Devin Lloyd is a guy that, pay him what he needs to be paid because we need Devin Lloyd.
And that's where the poll question falls short, I guess, because a lot of the answers coming in say, well, it depends on the player.
Yeah.
Keanu is the obvious answer right now because he's the name that just went in.
Yeah.
And he was going to be a team captain.
And
he's going to be an all-conference
certainly
candidate.
An important player.
He's very important.
And more important than Cam Calhoun.
Yes, I would agree.
I think that's pretty clear, as good as Calhoun was. But if you're saying that we take all that out of consideration and you want a hard and fast rule of thumb, I would say I would advise Kyle Whittingham to, first off, give me part of his salary because I'm making this huge decision for you, Kyle. But no, I would advise Whit to stick to the principles he's built this program on, which is you are either all in or in the way, and you are in the way if you're asking for this kind of special treatment.
Okay. I think that's the answer for a lot of people. Well, I don't think that's the answer for a lot of people. I know that's the answer for a lot of people because I put the poll question out there, and about 40%, almost 40%, 37.5% are saying let them walk. Let these guys walk. These are people who want to stand on their principles. I admire you if you are a principled person. I do. I don't know if I have the strength, right? Because we've all been a part of some kind of negotiation, whether it's a business negotiation, it's a decision you were making with your spouse about the color you were going to paint your house, whatever it is. We've all been part of these decision-making processes where there's a little bit of log rolling, a little bit of back and forth. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. I give you this, you give me that. I don't know what the I give you this and you give me back is right now in college football because the athletes have all the cards. And that is a reversal of what it was for decades, and that's why people feel it's so justified, and that's fine if you're in that camp. But the only way that this is sustainable, that college football as you know it for BYU, for Utah State, is sustainable as a recognizable product is for this to slow down a little bit, for something to happen where the tampering that is rampant, that, by the way, Utah is guilty of, and is the victim of as well, which is why no one's really blowing whistles, because if you point fingers at, well, BYU's calling our favorite guy right now. We want to keep Spencer Fano, and these guys are calling him. Then BYU goes, yeah, well, you called Logan Fano a couple years ago, and you took him away from us. So what are you doing, right? So nobody's tattling on each other right now. But the NCAA or whatever governing body that college football decides it actually wants to listen to is going to have to put anti-tampering legislation in place quick. Like the kind of anti-tampering legislation that actually has teeth the way it does in the NFL, the way it does in the NBA. And that's not to say that there's not tampering and plenty of it in those leagues, but when you want to actually blow the whistle, what does an NFL team lose if they're found guilty of tampering? They lose money and they lose draft capital. In college football, what that is the same. It's money and it's a scholarship. Anytime you can penalize someone. And I'm not just saying this because it's Utah that is feeling like it's up against it. This should be the case for every team. If I'm on Montana State radio, I'm saying the same thing right now because you need to protect what college football has been while improving it for the players and improving the lifestyle for the players who have generated all these funds. That's fine, but you need to protect something to keep this recognizable. College basketball has suffered immensely from one and done, transfer portal. Like there are very few teams that you look at season to season and say, I know I'm a fan of that squad because I've gotten used to these players and I'm a fan of this player and I'm a fan. Like college basketball is a little bit more transient already than college football is, but now college football is effectively a bunch of one-year deals. And standing on principle is one of the options, but eventually you're probably going to have to compromise your own principles.
Yeah, that's why I think the smart people that are really taking the time to mull over these options are saying, man, it's got to be kind of ad hoc. It's got to be, hey, it depends on how important that player is to you.
Okay, so Spencer Fano, I would do that for. I think Spencer Fano, is the highest upside, best overall talent in the Utah football program right now.
That's one that I think I'd try to find more money.
Okay, so he comes to you. He's already agreed to $500,000 plus, and he comes to you and says, "Oregon's going to give me $1 million."
I mean, I think I would say I would try to do both a little bit. I would try to say, yeah, okay, we'll come up with some more, but we need a commitment from you that that's going to be it. Well, I would do a little bit of I would move a little bit towards the player because he's that important.
And I don't disagree. And then he says, okay, Oregon did the same thing, and they said 1.25 now. Yeah, and you're like, I just offered you $750. Yeah, but they offered 1.25.
And that's probably where you go. That's where you go this hybrid principled thing and say, okay, then go ahead and go. 750 is our price. Like I think that it's got to be you got to be willing to wiggle a little bit. You got to be willing to move from your principles a little bit if the player's that important to you and you think still has that much of an upside for your program, and then say, okay, we got more, but that's the most we can get.
So I think what's going to happen at Utah, my belief is at Utah, while Kyle Whittingham is the head coach, they're going to stand on principle. I believe that there will not be a lot of wiggling going on. And I think that means that in the coming weeks, you might see a player that has already said, a Utah man am I, on his Twitter page, might end up going somewhere else. I hope not, obviously, but I think that person might leave. And the sky will not be falling when it happens, because I have to remind myself this, but I'm reminding you this as well. The Big 12 champion in 2024 was
Arizona State.
Arizona State watched all of its most important players, its most established players from Kenny Dillingham's first year, leave the program in the transfer portal last year. All of them. They left. the ones that everyone was so excited about as being big-time Pac-12 recruits, Jalen Conyers, etc., these guys walked away from that program. And all of us were just like, holy cow. He's backfilling with all these FCS guys. He's backfilling with all these group of 5 guys. But holy cow, this team is struggling right now.
16th in the Big 12.
16th in the Big 12. They won a conference championship.
Yeah.
Now, they're in a very different situation than Utah is. So that's probably an unfair analogy. But that happened. We watched that happen this year. So if you feel like the sky is falling because somebody left or because Keanu Tanuvasa left or somebody is going to leave tomorrow or the next day or a week from now, there are a lot of really good football players around the country that are wearing uniforms that say Utah State, Fresno State, Montana State, Weber State. There's a lot of really good players, all right? The second best running back in the country this year, maybe third best running back in the country this year, came from Sacramento State, had no scholarship offers out of high school except one in his hometown team. Like, this inexact science is still inexact even with the transfer portal. So I don't want anyone to panic. I do think, though, you need to prepare yourself to watch Utah stand on its principles and try to preserve its all-in or in-the-way culture and say, we played this game with you. We offered you fair compensation. If you're going to go chase the money somewhere else, we wish you the best of luck. I really think that's going to be the stance. I don't foresee Kyle Whittingham moving off of that anytime soon. So prepare yourself, but also remind yourself that one player does not a full team make. We'll talk about this and a lot more with Eric Weddle, who joins us next. The Utah football legend in 3 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700. We welcome the Utah football legend and head coach of the Rancho Bernardo Broncos, longtime NFL vet as well, Eric Weddle, to the show. A belated Merry Christmas to you, my friend. How are you?
Merry Christmas, my brother. I'm doing great. Just chilling. Had a great time with the fam yesterday, the last couple of days, actually, and didn't watch very good football on Christmas. But, that's to be expected. The Ravens are hitting their mojo, and the Chiefs, nobody could beat the Chiefs. So, it was a good day.
Wait, you also got to go out to Baltimore for a little, Legends Return recently, right?
Yeah, that was really cool. They've been asking for a few years, and ever since really I retired. And, everybody knows how special that place is and the connection I had with them. And I wanted to come back, go back earlier, but, when I went back with the Super Bowl run, it felt a little weird to go back so quickly. So I felt like that had been some time away from that. And it was really amazing to see people that I connected with and coaches and players and faculty and the firemen out there. And so, even seeing the owner and talking with him. So really fun, really humbled by it all. And it's just really cool to be a part of a special group with the Ravens organization.
We were talking about Lamar just a little bit earlier. As you're aware, he set the all-time rushing record for a quarterback in the NFL. He did it in 41 fewer games than the guy whose record he broke, Michael Vick. And he's still young. He's unbelievable in really every sense of the word as a quarterback. He's great. How long can he sustain that? Because he's very special. But the league is tough, and running quarterbacks do expose themselves to some risk. Is he unique enough? Is he special enough that he can do it as long as he wants? Or how are they going to have to put a governor chip on him at some point?
Well, shoot, how often does he get hit? When you really watch him, he very rarely gets sacked. He does take, I think they said 3 sacks a game. But, and when he runs, he's not ever getting tackled, hit. And so, I don't know, the improvement he's made over the last couple of years throwing the ball, throwing it in rhythm, on time, I still think that's at times it could be an area of improvement, especially in the playoffs. And you're going against great defenses that you have to get the ball out on time, in rhythm to your weapons and let them go create. But the way he's playing and the improvement he's shown, he's lost weight. Obviously, that's why he's more explosive, got that quickness back, the twitch back. At some point, he's not going to be able to run like he normally does, but the creativity and extending the pocket, he's like level 100 to Russell Wilson, and Russell's still running around doing some things in the pocket. I don't think he's a very good passer, but he can play this way as long as he wants until he's can't an extended period of time where he's not able to throw. I don't know. I think he could play this way for the next 10 years.
As a guy whose job it was to kind of account for the actions of an opposing quarterback, someone with that ability, how much more difficult does it make your job?
Well, it's let alone trying to tackle him. That's one of one. You can't even compare how trying to tackle someone like that in open space. Very, very difficult and unique. The way you try to neutralize them is to try to keep them in the pocket and try to pat the ball in the pocket. He wants to extend the play, but you're kind of just keeping him in that middle area. And then at some point, maybe trying to force him into making a decision he doesn't want to do. So they are a tough team right now. I wouldn't want to play them. Their defense is finally hitting their stride and made the adjustments that way. And him playing, I think they're both deserving. I think there's multiple people. Maybe this is the year there's a co-MVP. With Josh Allen, very deserving what he's done with that team and the talent around him with Saquon. No one's even talking about Sam Darnold and or Jared Goff, potentially being 15-2, number 1 seed. That's insane. So There's a lot of valuable guys out there, but what's Lamar doing? He could potentially go 47, 48 total touchdowns, 5,000 total yards, and less than 5 picks. Only people that have ever done that have won the MVP, and it was A-Rod.
When you look at, I mean, you just mentioned a bunch of guys and a bunch of teams. You give some love to the Darnolds and the Goffs of the world, but it feels very much like the AFC is tougher this year. Is there a true Super Bowl contender? Is there a team that could potentially dethrone the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Bills in the NFC?
Well, I would say the NFC is deeper this year, playoff wise, and maybe top heavy AFC. I think it's Chiefs, Bills, or Ravens coming out of the AFC. I think the Bills or Ravens are the only team that can beat the Chiefs, and everyone else is going to be one and done. So that's kind of set in stone, you could say. And the NFC, I think it's a toss-up with 5 teams. I think it's Philly. I think it's the Rams. They're getting hot at the right time. I don't think anyone wants to play them. I think it's Green Bay. I think it's Minnesota, and I think it's Detroit. So is that the 5 teams I said?
Yeah, those 5, yeah.
Teams. I think it's those 5. I think any of them can win it. And the Houston is going downhill, and so I'm not worried about them. And you're not worried about. Sorry, they're in the AFC. Who else would be in the NFC?
I mean, Seattle. The NFC South has
not gonna make it.
Atlanta or Tampa.
Yeah, they're going to be whoever they play, or they're going to lose. So I think it's those 5 teams, and honestly, I think it's if somehow, let's just say Minnesota wins this week and next week and is the number 1 seed overall, and they're hot, right? Or Green Bay beats Minnesota, and they, any of those teams I can see winning. If I was a betting man, I would go with the best quarterback of those 3, which would be Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, or Rams. I'm not sold on the Eagles, especially Hurts being out. I think they may have probably the best overall team, but I'm not sold on him beating me in the playoffs when the game's online when you can't run the ball. So I would err on the side of picking those other teams, and then from there I would go Stafford 1 because he's done it, and then talent-wise you got to go Darnold's up there with Goff, and then Love is young, but he won a couple playoff games last year. So man, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait as a fan. I mean, this is awesome.
How big of a wild card is Washington with Jaden Daniels? Because quarterbacks drive so much of what happens in the league.
I think they're a year or 2 away. As a rookie coming in, doing what he's done has been pretty impressive. But the game's getting shortened. The defenses understand what you are over a season, and usually rookies tend to struggle in the playoffs, which I would expect from him.
Eric Weddle's our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking a little NFL. We'll get to some Utes here in just a minute, but want to stay with the team that we saw play on Christmas Day, Kansas City, as you already alluded to. Great team, 15-1. Andy Reid's busted into the locker room dressed fully as Santa after the game. These guys look like they're having so much fun, and they're just going out there, and it doesn't matter how the games play out. They just find ways to win. They continue to beat even good teams. I don't know if that was the case yesterday, but they continue to just win football games, even when, everyone's trying to find reasons why it's not sustainable, or, hey, they can't do what's never been done and win 3 Super Bowls in a row. I watch them and I'm like, damn it, it's going to happen again.
Yes, you're 100% right. And they're like the Ravens and like some of these teams, they're only getting better, and they're only catching the rhythm and trying to play their best ball at the end of December and going into January. And you can tell the way they do their interviews, the way they talk, that they are taking the slights. They're taking what media is talking about, what maybe people across the league are saying, that they're the worst 15-1 team ever created. They have so many single-digit wins, and they hang around with lesser. They are channeling that and using it, because you could tell after that game with Mahomes and Kelsey, they have underlying comments about that. And so, if you're a betting man, how do you of course you're going to bet the field, but in a big game, in a big moment with Andy Reid and Mahomes and the refs, how do you not think they're going to figure it out and win? You got to dethrone the champs, and they're back to back, and it would be incredible to see. Even though I don't want to see it, it may happen, and they're playing hot. They're playing their best ball at the right time. They're going to get rest. They're going to get basically 3 weeks before their next game. So, gosh, someone's got to beat them though.
I don't know how often I do this on the show. Way too often, I'm sure, but just making the point of how hard it is. It's 2024. These games, baseball's been around over 100 years. Basketball has a long history now. The NFL, even the modern version of the NFL, we're several decades deep into this thing. It's hard. It's nearly impossible to do something for the first time. It's nearly impossible to do something that we have never seen before. And somehow this Chiefs team is on the verge of it. It's crazy impressive and aggravating at the same time.
Listen, I think you and 95% of the country in the world think the same way, unless you are a Kansas City Chiefs fan. You're impressed, you're in awe, but you're just salty at the same thing, like all in the same breath. You as a football fan and an enthusiast, you're just in awe and you're just enamored and you tip your hat, but at the same token, you're just salty and mad because you want to see someone else in there. You want to see the end stop. You want to see the run stop. So it's gonna, they're gonna be tough to beat in the playoffs, man. And they're gonna get the calls. So you have to literally, physically, and X's and O's beat them. For you to have a chance because they're going to get those breaks. Some of them are created by them, and some are just happen to go their way.
Eric Weddle for another couple of minutes. All right, let's talk about the Utes. Let's talk about what's going on in college football and Utah's place in this world, where you got guys who have professed their loyalty to the program and actually even poked fun at other people who were not as loyal as they were. And then a week or two later, they themselves are off into the transfer portal. It is a very difficult situation for any coaching staff. It's not just Utah that's dealing with this.
Yeah,
Utah's unique in that they've got a guy who's been around in the job for 20 years who's being expected to adjust to this, which is different. They've also got the next head coach waiting somewhat impatiently maybe behind him to say, I think I know how to handle this. Let's do it this way. I don't know what the answer is, but I want your thoughts because, you're a guy who is running a program and molding the minds of young men who are eventually going to be part of this picture.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very difficult to understand. I don't have a kid in it. I know a lot of times we have to be mindful of the I think it's like 60% of kids being told to go to the portal and the 40% are trying to maybe move on for more money or a better situation, et cetera, et cetera. So we do have to be mindful of that. I don't understand. We need to get rid of the portal, if I'm being honest. And these kids, like if I'm a starter at a major D1, why am I even entertaining the idea of going somewhere else? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you not happy enough with making 100, 150, 50, whatever, 200K? Is that not enough that you're in a great situation with a team that you're supposed to be loved? Then you move on. And who's making those decisions? Who's coming with these ideas of you can get this at this place? Like, it's so like backdoorish, like slime ball, sleazeball type stuff that's going on that there's no honorable system in all this. It's not like, I don't know. I'm really frustrated by it. I'm even more frustrated that the high school kids are getting the shaft in all this, with portal kids getting more opportunities. And now with the JC ruling, like, universities are not going to recruit high school kids anymore. They're going to recruit 2 years of JC ball that has no hinder on their 4 years of eligibility. So you're going to go after a 19, 20-year-old kid that's been working out and playing football and taking general ed classes on the side for 2 years than the 17, 18-year kid that you may have longer time to develop. I don't understand why we are enabling average to below average play at the high school level and giving those kids more opportunities than giving the kids that earn it and get good grades and play at a high level those kids are getting dropped down and not getting the opportunities that they should. It's just baffling to me.
It's an ugly deal. Now, one of the scenarios that we've seen programs explore, right, is like Stanford hired Andrew Luck to be their general manager, which is a position, quite frankly, it's wild for me to say general manager of a college football team, but that's exactly what it is. General managers in college football are not protected by the same collective bargaining agreements that NFL general managers are, so I think you can make an easy case that it's still a harder job in college football than it is in the NFL. But somebody like Andrew Luck brings a certain amount of notoriety and clout and all that stuff to Stanford. They still have a huge uphill climb. Is that enough in your mind to have somebody like that who was successful at every level, at such a high level, to potentially, help Stanford? Is that a significant enough move?
I don't. I mean, if he's going to bring in $10-15 million of money to spend each year, then no. I mean, the reality is these kids want money. They're not entertaining the idea of being a part of a team, a culture, some place that will build you up into the values of young men in society, great fathers and husbands. Like, they don't care about that. And 98% of them don't make it to the NFL. So they want to maximize their opportunities, which, hey, this is the system they're in. I'm not going to fault them for that. But for me and the program that I would want to run, I'm going to err on the side of getting the right kids that want to be a part of what we can provide them on the field and off the field, not just money. Like, money is a monetary thing. It comes and goes. You can't provide happiness on the dollars you make compared to what you can learn and grow and sustain you for the rest of your life. So I think it's just something they're trying to help. But if Andrew Luck doesn't have $15 million behind him, he's going to continue to get the 1 and 2 stars, which is okay, but you got to keep them in the program and develop them. And if you develop them the right way and continue have the right coaches and leaders around them, those guys will develop into 3-4 stars and be the best players on your team. That's how it used to work. That's how it always worked. Now you're turning over your roster every 3-4 months and trying to get the best players to fill holes. Where is the culture? Where is the team? Where is people to root for? You don't have that now. And that's where I think the bigger issue is trying to keep a program going is you can't. I don't think it's sustainable going portal. You gotta develop young kids that'll stay true to your program.
Well, I brought up Arizona State this year for the Big 12 as an example of something that feels like a wild outlier. They came into the season ranked 16th, as you're well aware. They won the conference championship, and preseason rankings don't mean anything. What I would like to see is where their payroll ranked compared to the other Big 12 teams. Because I know that they didn't have the same NIL kind of situation even that Utah did. Certainly not what Oklahoma State had. Certainly not what a bunch of these other teams in the Big 12 had. And they did what you were just talking about. Kenny Dillingham built a culture and got guys all doing the same thing and doing it the right way, and they won because of it. I don't know if you can continue to do it that way at Arizona State even, but it worked this year.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't you're exactly right in everything you said. I just don't understand how you could be a starter. Like, I'm just going to throw Calhoun's name out there because I don't know his situation. I don't know what he got. I hope he does great and is happy. My point is you're a true freshman, whatever he was, starter at the University of Utah, who's put multiple DBs into the NFL. Okay, how does it become a situation where you even entertain the idea of going into the portal? Like, did you not have a conversation with your coach, with the staff, with whoever, saying, what am I making? What do I deserve to make as a premier corner? Can we maybe give me a little more? Like, I don't even know how that happens. And you lose out on a kid like that because Alabama gave him more money? Like, I don't like how this is the era and this is the situation these kids are being put in. Now, how do you make that change? I don't know. Like, I'm not. I just think it's tough for kids to sit here and say I can somehow get more money from a different place, and you're not going to go take that. Well, how do we make it so that's not even an issue? Like, do we make it 2-3 year contracts? do we make the get rid of the portal and it's only if your coach leaves or if you graduate? Like, the portal is a nightmare. It really is, and it's getting out of hand.
Did you ever get tampered with while you were under contract in the NFL?
No, I don't even. Well, it's against the rules.
Yeah.
Like, if tampering in the sense of you're talking with other players from other teams, like, that happens all the time. So, of course, you're talking with friends across the game throughout the season. Now, when you become a free agent, you're of course going to talk to guys at different places, but that never got into the sense of money. Like, they have no control over money. So I talk to players all the time, but from other coaches or management, like, that never happened, because you can get in some serious trouble if you get caught like it's shown in the past.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that. Like, how do you put the genie back in the bottle with the transfer portal? And that's really the only way, is you have serious anti-tampering rules like the NFL does have. But I still don't know. I was obviously never an NFL player. I don't know if, a player comes to you and it's just like, hey, the GM said that they want you and they would do this for you. That's different than a guy just being like, hey, it'd be awesome if we were on the same team.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know, even at the collegiate level, if that's being there has to be a runner. There has to be some guy that's intertwined with the university and the NIL that's going to these kids in social media or their cell phones or however they make it and saying, we'll give you this if you hit the portal. Like, That's the only way. The kids don't know. The players don't know. And I highly doubt coaches that are on staff would jeopardize themselves. And on the flip side, no one's gonna turn someone in, because most likely they're doing it on their side and they don't want to get caught.
Correct.
Or two, that it's just not worth it. Like, a kid transfers to my school or transfers out, and they go through that process. I'm not gonna go out of my way to stop the kid. You know what I'm saying? Or if a kid comes here, like, I don't have any control. I can't speak to kids. I don't speak to them if they're not on my team. I don't even, if a kid says he's transferring to me, like, until you're at my school in my fourth period, like, I'll see you then. Like, it's not worth it to me. But I don't know. I mean, I assume everybody's doing it the way the landscape is, but there's got to be a guy, or a woman for that matter, that's going around and offering up, because why hit the portal? Well, if you have no idea what you're going to get or what opportunities are there, if you're a returning starter, why do it?
Well, no, you're absolutely right. It's because
why chance it?
It's because there is a runner, there is a whatever that person is.
Exactly. And I'm telling you this, if a guy, Coach Dillingham, if that's at ASU, I did like his spin on it. But if you're a kid that's going in the portal and you don't feel like our program is good enough and you're not getting paid enough and you didn't want to come talk to me about it, or let's work something out and move some stuff around to keep you here, if that wasn't the case and you enter the portal, you're never coming back. Like, if nothing happens in the portal and you want to come back, you're not coming back. Like, sorry. Good luck. I wish you all the best, but you're not going to be a Utah Ute anymore. Sorry.
Well, we're going to have to figure it out at some point, because college football is becoming –
You and I, let's put our minds together.
Hey.
We're not very smart between us two, but maybe between us we'll be smarter.
I tell you what, they're going to call you to get your ideas. They don't want mine. So, all right, dude, we'll let you go. Thanks for your time as always. Happy holidays. We'll talk next week. You're the best.
You got it, buddy.
Eric Weddle, Utah football legend. All right, Zachariah Hour is going to begin next, so – let's double up on the breaks here, James. Our guy Zachariah joins us in like 6 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700. Sebastian Maniscalco bringing the It Ain't Right tour to the Maverick Center January 17th. You can listen to The Drive with Spence Checketts for your chance to win a pair of tickets. Details on ESPN700sports.com. The Drive with Spence Checketts is coming in 55 minutes. That means we have 55 minutes of the Zachariah Hour, which, of course, isn't quite an hour, which is a running joke on the program, how we never give my guy a full hour. And, of course, we do it again. Even after he held the fort down for me for 2 whole weeks, I continue to mistreat him. It is just, it's terrible of me, Zachariah. But here we are.
I'm actually not mad. I was getting ready because you were going so long with Weddle, who, by the way, didn't join me again. Starting to take it personal, as you know I do. I know you called me Sensitive Sally when you were on with Spence Checketts. I had this whole spiel written out because I was so mad. I was looking at the clock. But then you doubled up the breaks, and I can't even be really mad at like 4 or 5 minutes. What I was gonna say, one of my New Year's resolutions is I'm gonna add up the minutes late that you are every single time, and then once it hits 60, I'm just not gonna do the following week. But I mean, honestly, I was expecting to come on at like 115. 105's not bad at all. I'm not mad at you, OC.
Okay, I like that. That's you're in the Christmas spirit with your generosity here. Did you have a great Christmas?
I did have I can tell you some personal stuff off of air. It didn't go exactly perfect. I was able to see my bestie on Christmas Eve, and then I had some time, but I wasn't able to see my nieces and nephews, which kind of chapped my hide. But other than that, yeah, it was a great Christmas. I got a couple things to get off my chest. I know you just sent me some of the topics that we're going to get into. Number one, I have to start with this, and I hate to start morbid, but I do want to make sure that any of your listeners out there and whoever listened to me, thank you for the compliments, and I also appreciate your insults over the past couple of weeks while you were out hobnobbing. You were working a little bit, but you also called me one time with the ultra flex, and you weren't even trying to flex. You were like, "Just got off the boat in France." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm driving through snow in Utah." Anyways, Ricky Henderson, yeah. OC, and for some reason on Ricky Henderson, and I don't know why, because I cried when Kobe died. And I've been trying to do some self-reflection on why Kobe, who I hated, hit me more than Ricky, who I loved. I think it has to do with the amount that you consume in your formative years. Like, Ricky was not around with social media. Ricky was not on when you could watch every game. So I think I consumed less of Ricky, even though I have better memories of him. But I would just like to say, for any youngster that doesn't know who Ricky Henderson is, first of all, shame on you. And for the ones that are not like really familiar with him, just know that when E40 and Mac Dre and all these rappers popped their collar, Ricky Henderson did that first when he hit a home run. You need to know that he made neon green batting gloves the coolest thing that anybody could have. Even people that didn't play baseball had neon green batting gloves because of Ricky Henderson. He also got $1 million check from the A's, which I think was some sort of record. And about 2 months later, the accounting was like, "We're like $1 million off. What's going on?" They call Ricky, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, Ricky framed that." And they're like, "You framed the check without cashing it?" And he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll take it down and cash it." Anyways, that is just Ricky in a nutshell. And not even just that, OC. Look at the numbers. The stolen bases before they were all swolled up. The runs scored, the hits, the power that he had. There was nothing you could do with that guy. If you walked him, it was a triple because he stole second and stole third. If you pitched to him, he might take you deep or hit a double or even just a base knock, and then that's the same thing as a walk. He was incredible. I loved him. I appreciate him giving me the only championship that I have out of any of my favorite teams in 1989 when we swept those Giants out of the Bay during the earthquake. And again, I don't know why I was not really sad about it. Like, it didn't hit me too hard. Maybe it's because he lived such a great life, but I just wanted to make sure that any people listening out there, just when you're bored or you're, dropping a deuce or something, just YouTube Ricky Henderson highlights and some of his stats, because he was just a phenomenal player.
I know that one affected you. I'm glad you got that off your chest, because look, all of us, and look, in Utah, it's not Ricky Henderson. We'll be honest. It's very few people listening to this station are like, have that kind of emotional connection to Ricky Henderson. However, all of us who are sports fans have an emotional connection to some player, a favorite star or whatever. And of course, very few had the kind of cultural impact that we're talking about with someone like Ricky Henderson. If I'm not mistaken, and you would know this better than I, Ricky was the first guy that I saw, the first athlete that I saw that accessorized his uniform like religiously. He always had chains and stuff. There was very few guys at that point in baseball. And again, maybe you can cite somebody else, but I think he was a pioneer in that as well. Some people like that, some people don't. But like he was one of the guys that made jewelry part of the professional athlete uniform. Was he not?
100%. And not just that. You saw it with Barry. I believe he had like a dangling cross his career. You saw it with other guys that had, but he not only, and he would probably admit if he was alive, and I don't know if he's already admitted it before, he was probably not the first to do this, but in terms of wearing your number, OC, he used to have the deuce 4 on his, like the number, and then that got popular. But I believe that it probably didn't start with Ricky, but in terms of like a famous guy doing it, I believe that started with Ricky. And he was just awesome. He was also down to earth. I know countless stories of people that say if they saw him at a gas station or a grocery store, even my mom saw him at Safeway and said that they had like a 5-minute conversation. He was also, even though he wasn't humble, he talked in third person a lot. And Ricky loved himself some Ricky, don't get me wrong, but he was humble in terms of how he dealt with fans. I just wanted to thank you for giving me that platform.
I think that's why he's a favorite of yours, because you saw a lot of yourself in Ricky, which of course makes no sense, but that's probably why he's a big favorite of yours.
Well, yeah, I did. I mean, I love the swag. And again, I was a Mark McGwire guy because that's why Charles Barkley's my favorite, because he was not athletic when I loved him. I tried to model my game after guys I felt like I could replicate. Ricky was one of those superheroes where I'm like, well, I can't be Ricky. I'm not fast. I'm not athletic, but I can't be that steroid Mark McGwire guy at first base though.
Okay. Let's talk about Christmas Day and sports. Let's talk about holidays and sports. I put the poll question out today, and you're always very diligent on responding to the poll question. So I want your thoughts on when you pair a holiday with sport. For me, that's about as good as it gets. You get a day off. You get people you care about gathered around. You get, hopefully, a wonderful culinary experience, which matters more to me than it does to you. And you get to watch whatever your sport is. Now, the poll questions only allow for 4 options, so I gave these options. I said the best holiday and sport pairing is NFL and Thanksgiving. Is it NBA and Christmas Day? Is it July 4th and baseball? Or is it New Year's Day and college football? Where do you cast your vote?
I got to be honest. I'm looking at this for the first time. When I was a kid, even though I was not, I got more into college football as I got older, but I always remember New Year's Day and Bowl Day back before the playoff. That was a huge day. Now, granted, one of my buddies had a degenerate father who would gamble on a lot and make it a lot more exciting. But I don't think I'd go that. July 4th in baseball, more of my childhood. NBA and Christmas, I think I got to go NFL, Thanksgiving. My father was a Dutch immigrant that migrated to Michigan, so he was always a big Barry fan, and the Lions were always on Thanksgiving. I think I'd have to go NFL on Thanksgiving. But real quickly here, as I was doing shows with James and Zach over the past couple of weeks, I referred to the NFL as Debo, OC, because NBA used to be Christmas. And it was so sad seeing LeBron James after they beat the Warriors last night saying, I love the NFL, but the Christmas is for the NBA. It's like, bruh, wait till the ratings come out.
Yeah.
Did you see the bonanza on Netflix? And it's like, you almost feel bad for the NBA because the NFL is just Debo snatching everybody's chain. And I don't know if the ratings came out for the first playoff games for college football, but the NFL even tried to Debo their little sister within the football realm.
Hey, Zachariah, the ratings did come out, and the NFL beat college football on a playoff Saturday. And that's
so sad.
You and I are of like mind, where this is like the NFL used to have respect. The NFL used to be like, you know what? We're not going to do stuff on Fridays. That's for high school football. We're not going to do stuff on Saturdays. Yep. That's for college football. Yep. We're going to have Sunday and Monday, and that's going to be fine. And then they're like, you know what else we want? We want Thursday. I like Thursday. And they're like, you know what else I like? I like Black Friday too. And you know what I like now? I'm taking over Christmas Day. The NFL used to have like a cordial relationship, it seemed like.
Yep. No respect. No, I mean, like one of the top 5 things that I think of when I think of the NBA is the NBA on TNT with Chuck and Kenny and Shaq and Ernie, and that's Thursday night. And the NFL said, nope, I'll take that chain. Even college football, which is funneling the players to the NFL, they said, oh, that's cute. You got a little playoff thing going? Yeah. How about 3 games? Boom. I mean, and they do it to the NBA. And again, it was sad seeing LeBron being like, I love the NFL. I love the NFL, but Christmas is for the NBA. It's like, no, bruh. Your ratings are going to get destroyed when they look at the 5 NBA games. And even with the NFL games being bad, it might not be such a slaughter because the NFL games were terrible, but I'm sure the NFL is going to dwarf whatever the NBA does. It's just mean, OC. It's just mean. Well, it would be like Dan Patrick saying, it'd be like Dan Patrick going to your boss and being like, you know what? I know I'm on from 7 to 11. Go ahead and give me 7 to 2. Cash me out some more loot. OC, sorry,
hey,
pal. You know what I mean? Like, let's kick him to the sister station.
That was a bad idea. You just gave them a great idea here. James is sitting there behind the glass.
He wrote that down.
James is sitting there behind the glass taking notes. Why did you do that?
DP is an avid listener of the Sean O'Connell Show. He shouts out Sean. He welcomes him back, Zachariah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now he's
like, I can do that? Relationship.
Yeah. That's a great analogy because it's this juggernaut of a sports product that is like we don't have to be giving anybody else space. Now, I wonder where the statute of limitations really is. I wonder if there's a saturation point for the NFL that finally people will be like,
you brought that up to me before, and the answer is no.
But because
you brought that up to me before.
But let me finish the point. Let me finish because I thought we had gotten there with the Thursday night games, right? It looked like people were just like, yeah, we like these Thursday games, but the product is suffering because of it, and like the broadcast wasn't that good.
I remember that.
And we don't like even the uniforms are kind of janky, and like people got a little bit bothered by it. And then guess what the NFL did? They just went back and were just like, hey, for real though, we'll help out with the scheduling so that the Thursday night game is a little bit better for you, and you're going to play better football on these. And this year, there's been very little complaining about the product of Thursday Night Football as a broadcast, about the product of Thursday Night Football matchups as games. So even when there is something that looks like, hey, you know what, maybe there is too much of a good thing happening here, the NFL's like, actually, no, we fixed that. We tweaked it a little bit, and now you want more of it. So here, you get a Christmas Day game or two, and sorry, NBA, you're now little brother on Christmas Day. It's crazy.
Yeah. The NFL is basically a scarier version of Debo. It's like if Debo was a mad scientist. So they're both a bully in just punking everybody and taking their chain. But they're also, I mean, I don't know if Debo was smart in the actual movie. I'm guessing he wasn't like a genius. But they're looking at it from every possible angle. And you're right, OC. I remember that disgruntlement from like whatever it was, 3 or 4 years ago. And you know why it was, is the NFL said, look, they love this drug so much that we can do whatever we want. So we're going to put a absolute crap game on Thursday, and it's still not going to matter. But it mattered enough. So now that they changed it, now the games are good on Thursday, and they're right back to cooking with gas, putting on games every day of the week other than what? I think it's going to be every day of the week other than Tuesday.
Well, hopefully we're not going to get a regular Wednesday presence. And
no. I mean, in terms of them having a game on the days of the week. Won't there have been a game Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
This year, yes. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. I mean, that's crazy. They're taking the whole week. It's supposed to be once a week. I mean, twice with Monday. Then they had Thursday. Now it's Saturday. Now it's Wednesday. They don't even care. The Chiefs played like 7 games in 5 days somehow.
It's 3 games in 11 days for the Chiefs and the Texans.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
The thing, okay, so for the Texans, it looked on Christmas Day like, yeah, they played a game 4 days ago. They stink. Like, that was not great, right? And you give them a pass. You just say, okay, fine, because you can't turn around and play an NFL game on 3 days rest. No one should be asked to do that. But then the Kansas City Chiefs were asked to do the same thing, and the Kansas City Chiefs looked phenomenal. And Patrick Mahomes had a great game, and Travis Kelce had a great game. And these star players are breaking records on 3 days rest, and you're just like, gosh dang, this team, the Kansas City Chiefs, I think I got to this point several weeks back, but here we are again, and I keep confirming my own bias. The Kansas City Chiefs in 2024, I guess it'll be 2025 when they actually win it, they're headed to the first ever back-to-back-to-back Super Bowl victories.
I love when we are simpatico and we have synergy, because it led me to one of the next things that I wanted to get off my chest. And this is one of those things. OC, you know me well enough to know I am not a hot take guy. Usually if I say something that's coming off as passionate, it's because I truly 100% believe it. The thing that I'm about to say actually irritates me, and it makes me wonder. It's like sometimes every once in a while, you probably think it more than me, but I think to myself, am I losing my mind? Am I crazy? Because you guys had an MVP talk, and to me, there is only one MVP. His name is Patrick Mahomes. I don't care about the numbers. Sean O'Connell, they have one loss to the Bills, and that's what people say, but Josh Allen lost to Matthew Stafford. And here's how I view MVP. You can say valuable. You can say the pieces around it. First of all, he hasn't had a great wide receiver since Tyreek Hill. And the ones that they keep bringing in always get hurt. Now, he's getting some of his guys back, and they brought in DeAndre Hopkins. But Mahomes just wins. And I define MVP, OC, if every single player was a free agent and there was all 32 teams having a draft, who's going number one?
But it's Patrick Mahomes unequivocally. There's no other answer.
Okay, so he's the MVP, and I don't care if everybody has chief fatigue. I do too. I'm a Dolphins fan. They knocked us out last year. I have chief fatigue too. While I think it would be cool to see back-to-back-to-back for the first time ever, nobody likes that. Nobody liked the Cowboys early in the 90s other than Cowboy fans. So I have chief fatigue too. But MVP, I'm sorry, Josh Allen. I'm sorry, Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry, Saquon Barkley. I'm sorry, Jared Goff. I'm sorry, Darnold, who's not getting enough love as the Vikings are going to come down to the wire to have the number one seed in the NFC. The MVP is the guy that you want on your team that you know is going to win you the game, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And nobody's even talking about him. I don't even know what his odds are in Vegas because they don't put it on the screen when they show it on TV. OC.
My guy Zachariah joining us for the whole hour here. If you're watching while you're listening, Toledo with a pick six is up 20-12 in the Game Above Sports Bowl. Pitt versus Toledo.
What?
2 7-5 teams, 20-12 after the pick six.
Isn't that the Gamia Bovie Bowl?
No, why did James? No, why'd you do that?
The game,
because they have. I mean,
the
I know
Game
the
Above.
brand. I'm not sure what Game Above is, but I looked up the bowl to make sure it's supposed to be all one word like that. It is, but they smushed it all together, so it's like Gamia Bovie Sports Bowl. Anyway,
okay,
a
hang
little
on.
confusing.
Let me. I'm Googling Game Above to see why they sponsored this bowl game.
It looks like their logo is
Game Above
one word. Like
is
that.
a successful, multifaceted brand that includes charitable giving, capital investment, sports entertainment, and media ventures. All right, so this is money laundering. All right, Game Above.
I was just having a money laundering conversation
Game
the other
Above.
day as I was driving by car washes.
Game Above Sports owns a meaningful stake in the Brisbane Bullets, a professional basketball team in the NBL since 1979. So they're from Australia, I guess.
What is the NBL?
It's in in Australia. It's Australian basketball.
Oh, nice.
So wait a second.
Name an Australian basketball player not named Bogut.
Patty Mills.
Joe Ingles,
Attaboy.
Dante Exum.
Okay.
Game
Look
Above
at you. You
Sports.
guys have been watching your
Aaron
Olympic
Baines.
basketball.
Game Above Sports bringing the Big Three basketball league to Detroit. So Game Above is part in a Big Three.
Ice Cubes?
Yeah. All right.
Ice Cubes, Big Three?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
All right. So Game Above is the George Gervin Game Above Center. George Gervin Game Above Center, formerly known as the Convocation Center, is a modern Southeast Michigan facility home to Eastern Michigan University athletics and various events. So apparently Game Above sponsors Eastern Michigan University's athletic department as well. All right, here we look what we've done here. We've taught the people something. Now you were tuning into this bowl game, Toledo and Pitt, the day after the day after Christmas, and you're just like, I don't know what Game Above is, and now we just told you. They own a meaningful
And
stake
that's why
in
they
an
sponsor it.
Australian basketball team, and they sponsor Eastern Michigan University athletics. That's about as obscure as you can get.
They are not. They're not a video game company that is trying to rip off Jersey Mike's slogan. They're not a game above.
No, doesn't seem like that. Does not seem like
I
that.
figured
James.
when I looked up the logo to see if it is supposed to be one word like that, the two words smushed together, that it was a video game company. But you have enlightened me. And you're welcome for derailing the Zachariah Hour.
Yes. Well, we always appreciate any derailing of the Zachariah Hour. All right. There are very few people in the world today, even with Christmas yesterday. There are little kids playing with their brand new toys that are having great days. Very few people are having better days than Teddy Bridgewater. We're going to take a break, and I'm going to tell you why he's having such a great week and such a great day. Sean O'Connell Show, Zachariah for the whole hour. It's ESPN 700. Hopefully all of you are having a wonderful day after Christmas, start of Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you're celebrating. It's the time of year for festivity and joy and sharing and charity and happiness. And I hope everyone's having a great day. Very few people on planet Earth are having a better week than Teddy Bridgewater. Zachariah, my guy joining me on the Sean O'Connell Show, James Peterson. Do either of you know why Teddy Bridgewater is having such a great day, such a great week? Don't cheat. Don't look it up. Zachariah, you first. Do you know why Teddy Bridgewater is having such a great time? Do we lose him?
We don't appear to have lost him, but we'll see. I do not know what's going on with Teddy Bridgewater.
So Teddy Bridgewater, for those who are aware, he retired recently from the NFL and immediately got back to work doing what our guy Eric Weddle, who joined me earlier on the show today, also does. He's coaching high school football. The difference is he is coaching his alma mater in high school football. Teddy Bridgewater recently won a state championship at his own alma mater, which is just awesome. He coached his high school alma mater to a state championship, and then after Northwestern Senior High School lifts the trophy, Class 3A Florida High School Athletic Association state title, he gets a phone call from an NFC championship contender, from a potential Super Bowl team. And Dan Campbell, who seems like probably the coolest head coach or the second coolest head coach in the NFL to play for, Dan Campbell gives Teddy Bridgewater a call and says, hey, we need you to be our kind of emergency backup quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater coaches his high school alma mater to a state title in Florida, no less, and then he gets a phone call a couple of weeks later to rejoin an NFL roster, not just any NFL roster, I think the front runner for an NFC title in the Detroit Lions. You want to talk about having a good couple of weeks, a good month? Teddy Bridgewater. How about that?
Well, my guess on why he was having a great week. You got me now?
Yeah, we got you now.
Oh, okay. My guess on why he was having a great week is I remember that Dan Lebethard a while back said that Teddy Bridgewater sounded like a children's book about a bear and a river that's collapsing in the city. And then I think they actually wrote a children's book of Teddy Bridgewater. I think that actually took place after that joke. And so my guess was going to be that maybe he had like a second edition to the book that was coming out. But yeah, that's a pretty solid week. And you said Dan Campbell, you know what I like to call him, OC, is man, as in his introductory press conference, he talked about biting ankles and kneecaps. And then if he gets up, then he's going to take a piece of your leg and your arm and your waist. So I call him Man Campbell, but then since he always goes for it on fourth, now I call him Man Gamble. So I don't even give any of his actual government names when I call him by what I call him, okay, which is Man Gamble.
On,
you said that he might. You said he. Okay.
So that means that when you're talking about NFL football and like you're just shooting the breeze with whomever, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Andy Reid might be the best guy, the best coach in the game right now." You're like, "Well, hold on, give some respect to Man Gamble, though." Oh, you got to, my guy, Man Gamble. Yeah, you got to. You just throw it out there like everyone else is supposed to know how your weird mind works?
Yeah. 100%. I say it as if that was his birth name. And then if people ask me, I'll just, well, Man, and then Gamble. Anyways, you said that he might be the coolest coach to play for. Who would be in that? Andy Reid is the guy that you'd have above him?
Look, Andy Reid seems like he'd be pretty cool to coach with or to play for.
He did dress. He did dress up as Santa yesterday.
Your favorite NFL team is the Dolphins. I wouldn't mind going and playing for the Miami Dolphins.
He's a little kooky. Yeah. McDaniel, he's a little kooky.
Well, he's got that whole like super nerd kind of vibe going on. There's a lot
super nerd, yeah. No, I got Man Gamble number one. Andy Reid probably two. In terms of success, I would do Reid one, Gamble two.
I can't decide if Jim Harbaugh would be amazing to play for or would be the worst person to play for. But it's one or the other. It's not. There's no middle ground with playing for Jim Harbaugh. You know what I mean?
And yeah, he's a full blown psycho. I'd have him in my top 5. I think you'd like him more than you dislike him.
Mike Tomlin would be. I think he's pretty cool. I'd like to play for Mike Tomlin, probably.
Yeah, did you see his quote at halftime?
I did not.
Did you see his quote at halftime?
He said,
well, I can't really do his voice, but he said, well, at halftime, we all ripped off our eyelids because we don't blink.
That's an all-time quote.
I was going to bring up, so Al Michaels was
so
on
good.
Al Michaels was on Dan Patrick Dan Patrick show last week, and he said that Dan was asking what current coaches in the league will be the best broadcasters, and Al said Mike Tomlin, and he said one of the reasons why is that he doesn't use cliches ever. He comes up with his own way to say the thing that we all use cliches for. And the thing,
true.
And
nobody's ever said we ripped our eyelids off and we don't blink.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said that. That is a Tomlinism.
We've heard we don't blink. We haven't heard we ripped our eyelids off and we don't blink. No, and the one that Al Michaels brought up was, he said a lot of people say we spread it around. Mike Tomlin calls it a redistribution of what do you say? Redistribution of labor.
Okay.
Instead of spreading it around.
I like that.
Yeah, he's got his own way of wording everything. He's great. Yeah, he'd be fun to play for sure. Plus, he hasn't had a losing season in forever. Although I did see a lot of hubbub, OC, about like Steelers fans are like, yeah, that's great. He hasn't had a losing season in forever. We also haven't won a playoff game in almost a decade. So, I mean, I don't think he's on the hot seat or anything, but they have lost 3 in a row.
I'll tell you who the last head coach in the NFL I'd want to play for is Kevin O'Connell of the Minnesota Vikings. There's no way in hell I'm surviving
Really?
I would not want to be the second most successful, second most handsome, second most interesting O'Connell in the building. All right? That would bother me so much.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Can you imagine how
so
in your birth state too?
Yeah.
No
in
less.
the state I was born. Can you imagine how fragile my ego would be when everyone's just like, this O'Connell cat with the Minnesota Vikings is amazing. And I'm thinking they're talking about me, but they never are. They're talking about Kevin O'Connell, not me as like the fourth string long snapper.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you were saying that myopically, but yeah, you're totally right. You could be like an all-pro linebacker. You could lead the league in sacks and pass deflections or whatever, and still, if on radio they're talking about how great an O'Connell is, you're number 2 on that list.
That's exactly right. And he's younger than me. I mean, there's so many things wrong with being on that roster.
We can't see Zachariah, but you saw how I looked at you sideways when you said that. I'm sure Zachariah was looking at us sideways. I was like, wait
confused.
a minute.
I'm like, he's making.
He's a great coach, and he seems like
he's
a fun
making
guy.
Sam Darnold look good.
No, listen. Yeah, exactly. He's like one of the wunderkind type coaches right now. Everyone's really high on him. He's 6'5", 225 pounds. So I'm shorter, uglier, older, less talented, certainly less intelligent. And guess what his nickname is? What is it? What do people call me? They call me OC for the most part, right? My friends call me OC.
They call him Kev?
Yeah.
Is that what they call him?
They call him KOC. So he's got an extra, like, I'm screwed. I can't even be in the same room as this guy ever.
See, if you were on the Vikings, I would hope that you would try to push back on it, like in a stealth way, and call him Kev instead.
I would.
And be like, and then when you're doing interviews, we love Kev.
Hey,
like,
you know what? Kev is really great. He's and always always kind of backhanded compliment and just undermine it. Yeah, he's got a nice little season put together here. Like, I don't know if it's sustainable, but we got some good things going on. Just like never really fully gas him up. And then in person, you're always finding ways. Like, most of the time, I feel like I can beat people up because I was a professional fighter for a long time. His dad was an FBI agent. He probably signed his kids up for like combat class. He's probably like a black belt in jiu-jitsu too. Probably proficient with the firearm. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of reasons, man. I didn't know I was going to go down this rabbit hole, but now, even though I've never met the man, now I'm screwed. I can't ever be around Kevin O'Connell.
No, I mean, I'm totally with you. Okay, so we had Lynn Roberts on, and she was like, we were trying to come up with a nickname, and she's like, well, I did shooting Utes when I was out there, but it never took off. And so just like me and James are trying to get that name to stick, you would try to just get Kev to stick. In every interview, you would just be like, Kev. You'd be like telling your teammates, hey, what's up with Coach Kev? And they'd be like, you mean KOC? Like, no.
No, he prefers
Trying
Kev,
to
guys.
get us to be called Kevin. Yeah, and you're right. If ESPN 700 hired a Slenderbrook and he was taller than me, better looking and younger and funnier and more intelligent, I would feel some type of way about that. I'm guessing I'd probably see the exit door.
Yeah, not good. Not a good situation. Anyway,
No.
I did not plan on using 10 minutes on Kevin O'Connell, but here we are because that's the kind of radio
Well,
show
it started with Teddy. It started with Teddy Bridgewater, and I guess Teddy. I'm looking it up now. Teddy was the backup last year. Didn't take any snaps because, knock on wood, Cowboy Goff does not take any games off apparently. But yeah, his last action was with my lowly, pathetic Dolphins that are still annoyingly on that graphic of still in the hunt, which I just don't want to see. Like, if your chances are less than 5 or 10% or whatever, don't put them on in the hunt. All you're doing is selling hope to a hopeless person. But anyways.
All right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take another break.
I digress.
Here. I'm going to take a break here so we have some time to talk, and then we'll have Spence Checketts. So our final segment's coming up. It's going to be a long one because I do want to see – Zachariah's mind works differently than most people's. If you've been listening to the show while he's filled in for me, you probably realize that.
They know now.
He's got a screw loose, all right? And that's not always a bad thing because, he's an intelligent individual. We're going to see if he has an idea to fix this transfer portal nightmare that not just Utah but a lot of teams find themselves in, where you got players who are committed to staying, and then a week later they're gone. We'll get his thoughts. It's the Sean O'Connell Show with Zachariah sitting in for the hour on ESPN 700. Well done to James Peterson for playing the number one Christmas song of all to bring us back in. Mele Kalikimaka to all of you, a belated Mele Kalikimaka. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, and happy Boxing Day. Boxing Day in the European countries and British Empire. Turns out that Boxing Day is mostly just a day for shopping for deals.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's the British Black Friday.
But it's an official government holiday. It's a bank holiday.
Like, we either need to make Black Friday a government holiday, because that'd be our version of it, or we need to be like Canada, move everything back a month and give us Boxing Day. Give us Thanksgiving in October. Give us like 7 weeks to prepare for the next big family event and slowly Christmas shop, and then give us an extra day off.
So happy Boxing Day to all of you who celebrate, which is probably not very many folks. All right, Zachariah is here with us for another few minutes. So I wanted to get your thoughts. We've been talking about this. We did it on the show the day before Christmas Eve. We're doing it again today. There's this angst, this worry among the Utah fan base that the transfer portal is not going to be a net positive for a team that hit every year since transfers were even allowed in college football. Utah's been on the right side of the balance. They get more than they lose. When guys are committed to the program and they recognize the talent development and they recognize the family culture and all that stuff, typically they stay. And if they don't, most of the time when players leave the University of Utah, it's because the team has moved on from them rather than the other way. This offseason cycle, coming off a rough season, there's been a couple situations where guys that most of the fan base would like to see remain in a Utah uniform and have a lot of talent have decided to move on. And one of the players who would have been a captain next year, Keanu Tanuvasa, is now in the transfer portal. Although I wouldn't lose all hope just yet, Utah fans, because I think there's a possibility he ends up changing his mind and coming back like Mekhi Bernard did a year ago. In any case, Zachariah, the real trouble here is that these are guys who have recommitted to the University of Utah, who have posted on their social media about, hey, a Utah man am I. I am fully committed. They've in some way, shape, or form, they have made it known that they intend to stay at the University of Utah, and a big reason for that is because they have been prioritized by NIL in the collective, given money to stay, rewarded for the contributions they make to the team, et cetera, et cetera. And then they come back a week later or 2 weeks later or however many days later, and they say, actually, I'm getting interest and offers and opportunities elsewhere. You're going to have to meet me somewhere in the middle, or you're going to have to elevate your offer. And at least in one case, Utah has said, no, we're not going to do that. You agreed to play for this. You're going to have to play for this. So that player is now on the Alabama Crimson Tide roster. How do you stop this craziness, Zachariah? Use your strange and twisted brain and tell me how you fix a transfer portal situation like this one.
Just to go to Boxing Day back just for a second, I always thought it was because it was the day after Christmas and people sent back the gifts that they didn't want. Anyways, in terms of this, I heard you and Weddle talking about it. It's obviously not an easy fix. I thought something that he said that would probably be my answer, and my apologies for not having a very strange outside of the box on Boxing Day idea, is that because college football is becoming like the NFL, which I've said ad nauseum, OC, I think you've just got to lock into contracts. So I'm wrong. Look it up. I believe that there was one. He signed a 4-year deal, which is crazy because you would think if he balled out for 2 years and he was going to be the number one pick, he would go to the NFL. So maybe there's a clause in there where he can't go to the NFL, but I believe he signed a 4-year deal for an insane amount of money with Michigan. And so maybe not all of them have to be like that, but something to where guys are not just going in and out, because Weddle's a little bit more disgusted and devastated by the whole thing than I am. I do understand guys going in and out, and I brought this up numerous times over the past couple of weeks. on these airwaves that Nick Saban said that one of the main reasons he got out was because he was no longer able to have depth. It wasn't so much the NIL and the transfer portal. It was that he used to have starters as his second and third string guys. And now those guys are going, well, I'm going to hit the portal and go somewhere else. In Calhoun's case here with Utah, it was a matter of just getting more money from Alabama. I think he even probably I think it was reported that he gave Utah a chance to match it, and they said no, and then so he went to Utah. So, I mean, he went to Alabama. So I think the answer is some sort of semblance of continuity, which I guess would be around 2 years. I think 1 year is where it feels a little gross. So maybe you get guys, if they do commit to you, you have them for 2 years. So I don't know. I honestly, okay. I don't have an outside of the box answer.
I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so there are narratives surrounding this, and that a lot of them circle back to, well, if Utah wants to be a big boy program, they got to play the big boy games and they got to pay the big boy money, and that is something that, again, it's always a case by case basis, and you got to trust the sources that you have or the ones you don't. There's not transparency here, so there's this assumption that Cam Calhoun came to Utah and said, Alabama's going to pay me more money, you got to match it, and Utah said no to that. That's not what happened. And because he ends up at a place like Alabama, people just say, okay, of course Alabama pays more than Utah does. That's not what happened. The information I have is that Cam Calhoun is going to make less at Alabama than he was offered at Utah. And Alabama wanted him, but Alabama has freshmen and sophomores that are their starting defensive backs. So Cam Calhoun adds to the talent in that room, but it's not quite so cut and dry as Utah's not willing to pay what other people are willing to pay. That may be the case in some of these situations, but in the Cam Calhoun situation, all the information that I have is that is not where this disagreement happened. So whether it's with Keanu Tanuvasa, who's still in the portal and hasn't committed to anywhere else, or the several names that are rumored to be getting offers from other schools, including in-state schools, but certainly not just in-state schools, but also, some of the big-time programs around the country, the transfer portal mess, I don't think the impact of it is over at the University of Utah. But that doesn't mean the sky is falling. I'm glad I got your thoughts on it, Zachariah. The Drive with Spence Checketts is coming up next, and Spencer Checketts, who I now know is a great friend to Zachariah. You guys, he told me that his favorite part of filling in for me on the show was the moments you shared, Spence.
Yeah, we had a good time. Me and I call him Zach now. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, wow.
And Z, Yeah. I just refer to him as Z because we have that relationship.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah, we were able to kind of go back and forth pretty seamlessly for two guys who've never worked to each other. How you doing, Z? Merry Christmas, brother. Is he still there?
He was there. I think he's having a connection.
To you as well. Santa brought you. Yeah.
There we go.
I'm here. I'm talking.
Okay, sorry. There's
three of us now, so maybe it's harder. James is back there.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, man.
Look at that.
It was still fun. This part isn't going as well. Our crosstalk today is not going as well, but when he was here live and I could actually see him, it went well. Merry Christmas, man. You have a good Christmas?
Yeah. Yeah.
You too,
Merry
Sean.
Christmas to you, too. I did, and I hope Santa brought you everything that you wanted. It was holidays are always fun. It's just it's the back to back to back. It's like Thanksgiving, then you get a little bit of wiggle room, but then Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve are literally a week apart, which means Christmas Day and New Year's Day are literally a week apart. So it kind of feels like, you'd like a little bit of break between all of them. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to a new year. And, yeah, it was a great time out there. We had fun. I don't know how many pounds you gained, Spence, but that time at the road home, I mean, it was like they were trying to make me Oompa Loompa. It was like cake on brownie on cookie. Oh, see, if you had gone, you wouldn't have fit through the tent on your way out.
That's a bad situation for me. And I'll tell you, I thought I was going to gain double-digit poundage on my cruise. I'm a little disappointed that I came in just shy of that.
But you put on a few pounds.
I put on plenty of pounds.
Okay.
Just under 10. Just under 10. And then my family is in town right now for Christmas.
Very nice.
And, my parents are both excellent cooks. And so I definitely am over double digits now. Because
tis the season, man.
Tis the season. And I'm packing it on.
What Zachariah didn't see is the second day in the afternoons, because I really try to stay away from fast food. Once upon a time, I was the king of fast food.
Okay.
Del Taco on Highland. Oh, man. I was there like multiple times a week. But in the afternoon, they brought in Chick-fil-A and like copious amounts of Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And look, say what you want about the health value of Chick-fil-A. That tastes amazing. So I'm just crushing chicken sandos in the afternoon while I'm doing the show out at the road home. So certainly some poundage. I got to the gym this morning. It was hard. I barreled through. It was rough, sweating.
Wow.
Several elements just out. Just blah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You know what? The toxins are gone now.
Little detox. Feel good. Ready for 4 hours of radio.
That's good. Before I turn myself loose and let you get into your show, the best holiday and sports pairing for you is NBA on Christmas Day, NFL on Thanksgiving, baseball July 4th, or college football New Year's Day.
Ooh. Oh, excellent options.
Right.
I thought the NBA games yesterday were awesome.
Not as easy as you think.
Yeah, for sure. The NFL games were blowouts. I'd probably, just because, look, I'm an NBA guy, as you know, but the NFL has figured out a way to present their sport on television that's like 10 times better than any other game. It just is. So I'd probably go NFL on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
But I thought the NBA games yesterday were really good.
The products, if you just say which was a more compelling product,
yeah,
NBA games were way better than the NFL games on Christmas Day. The ratings, I think, are going to reflect a different story.
For sure, yeah.
We'll wait and we'll see. What's coming up on the drive?
So you and my guy Z doing a bunch of Ute transfer portal talk. We're going to continue that. I have some new pieces of information as far as exactly how the A.J. DeBanza thing came down at BYU. I think there's some misnomers out there. I think there's going to be some very good news to announce for Utah football fans either at the end of this month or maybe mid-February about what the athletic department is doing to put themselves in a position to compete with the biggest of the big dogs with NIL and economic investment. So we'll get into some of that. The Jazz have played a little bit better, and my New Year's resolution is to be nice to the Jazz because I've been scolded. People saying that I've been too negative. So we'll get to some NBA. It's going to be a lot of college football, NFL as well.
Don't worry. Spence is like the rest of us with the New Year's resolutions. A week after you said it, you break it.
Oh, yeah.
So he'll go back to being mean about the Jazz.
I'm going to try my best. And honestly, they have played a little bit better. I just hope they're not I hope they're not good enough to accidentally win 25 to 30 games again and draft like 8th. Because that just, but we'll talk about it, and I'm going to be kind this Christmas season.
All right. Zachariah, thanks for stopping by for the hour. Always appreciate you.
You got it, buddy.
Talk soon.
Yes, sir.
Stay tuned for the drive with Spence Checketts right here on ESPN 700.